Happy Sunday evening. We're going to look at a USA Today article. It is titled, "We Were Told College Would Make Life Better. I'll Never Be Able to Retire Because of It." The author is Renita Walker, December 22nd, 2024 in USA Today. A link to the article will be in the description box in case you would like to read the article without interruption. I have worked 2 jobs my entire life. As a teenager growing up in Alabama, I worked nights at a burger joint and weekends at the record shop. As an adult, I worked as an administrative assistant and a florist in order to support myself and my kids after my husband's premature death. And now at age 60, I still work 2 jobs as a health administrator and a host at a local diner in order to pay my student debt. I took on student loans to get a job that could provide for my family and myself in my older years, but the reverse has happened. I've taken money out of my retirement account to lower my student debt payments, which exceed my mortgage payments. All right, let's stop here for just a second, okay? So she's working multiple jobs and she is 60 years old. I'll be 58 on the 4th of July. And I work a full-time job and a very, albeit slight, part-time job of daycare. I shouldn't say daycare, okay? It's after school, middle school care, okay? I help, watch the kids and stuff, all right? I was actually able last year to cut down my hours in my part-time job a little bit because I was very exhausted and my medical conditions with my knee arthritis and stuff. Okay. I was finding it was just very long days. So I had the fortunate ability, because I do live way below my means, I was able to cut down my job by like 5 hours a week. So it probably amounts to around 10 hours, if that. Now then, I'm trying to picture myself, if you're not 60 yet, or if you are, picture yourself at 60 and you are being forced to work 2 jobs. And she says here she works as a health administrator, which sounds like the professional job, and the side job is a host at a local diner. Now, here's the kicker. With my knee arthritis, I could not do a side job that required me to stand up. Think about this, people, especially those of you out there that, you're in your younger years and everything, your body's working just fine and all of that, and you got all your mobility. If you are forced to take on a second job in your older years, what medical condition might prevent you from being able to do that second job? In my case, I would be royally screwed, because really short of working at a call bank, I mean, perhaps I could work at Target and sit on a stool and cashier. You can't send me, to walk around and, put stuff back on shelves, to push boxes. I can't do it, not unless I want it in the hospital. Now then, that's because my knees were swollen up so badly, which would probably accelerate my need for a third knee surgery. I've had 2 already, 1 for each knee. Now then, so you're 60 years old and you are being forced to work as a host at a local diner. You're probably tired at 60. I can tell you I'm more tired at 58 than I was at 38. Imagine you're having to do it, though, because you have student loan debt. I wouldn't feel so bad, not that it would be easy, but if I'm going to work another job, at 60, for me in 2 years, as I told you, for gosh sakes, let it be for something that's really beneficial. I'm helping my child out because of a medical condition, and I'm able to provide them the medication they need. Okay. I mean, so something that has meaning other than I have these really old student loan bills, and the most likely, the interest, as we all know, just keeps going up and up. I can never pay it off. Trust me. Just like the buy now, pay laters. Okay. There's something else you're going to want to buy later, but yet you're going to be stuck paying off something that you bought now. I think it's the same thing with student loan debt. Yeah, sure. I can sit there and say, hey, you know what? I don't mind paying on my student loan debt for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And we've heard that. We've heard that from TikTokers. We've heard it even on the Ramsey show. All right. People are swearing up and down. Yep, I'm going to go to the school that I want. I love this mascot, whatever. But what happens down the road? They're really sick of the bill. They're like, I've been paying on this bill for 10, 15 years and it never goes down. Heck, it don't even take 10 years. Give them 5 years and watch the bill never go down, and they're getting frustrated. So just the whole idea of working at 60, not because I'm putting more money in my retirement account. Like I'll work a part-time job when I retire. Okay. I want to work a part-time job when I retire. I'm aware there are social security limits you can work and all that, but I really want to stay in the field of education and I want to contribute to the classroom and all of that stuff, even when I retire. But that's working because I want to on my terms, on my hours, and I'm doing something that's meaningful. Working two jobs at 60 to pay off your student loan debt, which clearly did not like she says here. She goes, she initially took it out to provide for her family and herself, but she says the reverse has happened instead. Yeah, and the fact that it exceeds her mortgage payment. So, and chances are she probably has a lower mortgage than other people because of her age if she bought the house years back. But still, your student loan is more than your mortgage. All right, let's continue on. I am far from alone. When she says she's far from alone, she's referring to the fact that she has these student loan debts. She's pulling it out of her retirement, and her student loan debt exceeds her mortgage. Okay. The number of adults age 60 or older with student loan debt has grown sixfold over the past decade, and the amount of debt they carry has multiplied nearly 20 times. Today, 9 million debtors and older hold more than 400 billion in student loans. Whew. I remember going to school and I could have my mommy, okay, my late mommy would write me a check. I swear, the University of Oregon, I swear, because I never really like stared at the check. She just kind of wrote them and I deposit them. I think it was like $500 for a quarter. Is it a quarter? I think something like that, semester, a quarter. It was really inexpensive. Literally, mom could write a check. Yeah, we still, had to apply for student loans and not student loans, but we still applied, for what is it, like Pell Grants and things like that. Okay. We applied for those. And after we got that, then mom just paid the difference. It was like $500. And I even worked during high school, a work study job, and that helped pay my bachelor's degree at the University of Oregon for journalism. And I graduated with zero debt. I kind of screwed it up later on in my 30s, but that's not for today. Okay, so let's scoot on down here. Although each of us has a unique story of how debt buried us alive, most older debtors have one thing in common. We went to school to make our lives better and more stable. But now, decades later, an insurmountable wall of student debt blocks this humble goal. How many young people are in the exact same situation? See, young folks, when you're sitting there going, I really want to go to that private school. I really want to go to that out of state school. Or even, I really want to go to the in-state school, but I'm going to change majors 2-3 times. This is how you'll wind up with this debt for forever and ever. And for those who don't know, okay, 2022, my 110,000 was forgiven. Okay. And I have read some of your comments and I am aware that some of you are absolutely not happy that that happened. But I will say I served and have continued to serve in middle school. Okay. I'm starting my 20th year. But at the time of my forgiveness in 2022, I had already put in 16 years. And clearly I'm still a teacher. So I did not just simply take the money and run. Excuse me. Although, to be totally honest, that's my Alexa. To be totally honest, I would not shame anyone if they, finished their 10 years and got out. It's to each their own. But everybody that got PSLF, when you finally get it, you served your time and you paid your dues. So, anyways, okay. When I became a widow in my 30s, I knew I would need a better paying job to provide for my family. Oh, she was a widow in her 30s. She should have had life insurance. And I'm talking like lots of it. I also wanted to set a good example for my two small children. Course by course, I worked my way through an associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree. To my pride, my children both decided to continue to post-secondary education. But lacking savings or generational wealth, I took out Parent Plus loans, as millions of people do every year to support their dreams. Okay, let's stop here for a second. There's a problem. I'm going to highlight it right here. Remember, I've said to you over and over, and I will continue to say it, part of the reason I think people wind up in so much student loan debt is because we have an acceptance crisis problem here in the United States based on the way our education system is set up. And that is, we accept that people should go into, quote, insurmountable loads of student loan debt that you can't pay off. And right here, I took out Parent Plus loans, as millions of people do. You see, when millions of people are doing it with you, it makes the action seem more acceptable. Hey, everybody's taking out credit card debt, so I'm going to take it out too. Everybody's paying $800-900 for a car, so I'm going to pay it too. See, what is it? They teach you in advertising. It's that bandwagon mentality. Get on the same program as everybody else is. See, it's easy for me if I were a parent, or even if I'm not a parent, okay? It would be easy for me to go into my retirement to take out student loan debt if I know everybody else is doing it too. It's kind of like when you're like failing something and you feel better when your friend is also failing it. Not because you want your friend to fail, you just don't want to feel alone at it. Hey, did you study for that math exam? No, I didn't either. Phew. Okay. We feel better when other people are potentially making the same bad decisions that we are making. There is a societal sense of permission that, yes, you may go ahead and get into debt. You may, mess up your future retirement account, and you may do it in the name of student loans. And that is okay. We need to stop allowing that to be okay. We need to go, hey, wait a minute. We got a problem here. Everybody's going broke, dipping into their retirement account. I know it's not everybody, but work with me here. Okay. It's everybody for the people that can't afford it. If you can afford to dip into your retirement account, although it seems like that wouldn't be logical. If you could afford the student loan, you would not dip into your retirement account. But it would be unfair for me to say that 100% of the people who dip into their retirement account can't pay their student loan. But I'm going to bet that most of the people who are dipping into their retirement account, you can't afford the debt. And we wonder how come kids get into trouble. We chastise kids, or chastise. We chastise kids, okay? Young adults, I should say, because they're in student loan debt. We don't understand what went wrong. Look what the adults are doing. Okay, so this sentence here, this helped her make that decision because everybody else is making that same bad decision. After 20 plus years of loan consolidation and regular payments for all three of us, that's her two kids, her balance has ballooned to unpayable proportions from an initial loan of $80,000 to more than $200,000 today. Remember, this was last year, so it's past $200,000. This is thanks to 20 years of interest that compounds at a skyrocketing rate. Right now, I accrue $1,100 of interest each month. Everybody pause. I want you to all absorb this paragraph while I take a drink here. Hold on. I just got done with the gym and I get incredibly dehydrated. Okay, let's break this apart, as you know I love to do. All right, so let's take a look here. 20 plus years of loan consolidation. Do you remember? I'm going to go back to her again because she's a prime example. Remember Eva's World? Eva's World. And that's the gal that I did on New York NYU graduate, $200,000. Now let's put this in some real reality here for you, okay? So $200,000 Eva had as of about 2 years ago going to NYU. What do you think that bill, she has $200,000, and she said that she's going to pay on it for something like, she actually says, she goes, I'm going to make the minimum payments until it's forgiven. But before it's forgiven, it'll become an IRS bill. Now then, I'm just using Eva as an example because she's got herself all over social media. Okay. All right. So Eva has 200,000 as of 2 years ago. This lady here, what is her name? Hold on. I'm going to scroll up. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. I forgot her name. It's Renita. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay. So, if you look at it here, Renita 20 years ago had 80,000. Today it's 200,000. What do you think Eva's debt is going to be? I'm going to write down Renita's name because I'll forget it. And I don't like to say the author. I like to be more personal about it. Renita. Okay. This is casual. You guys know that, right? Okay. So Renita has she has 1,100 of interest each month. So that would mean someone like Eva, who has $200,000 today, would have around the same interest rate, approximately. I know all the interest rates can be kind of different, the type of loan, private, federal, yada, yada. This a position anybody wants to be in? Back row. Anybody want to be in this position? This is what you're looking at. I'm not criticizing the mother personally, I guess I could say, because I'm not a parent. I get it, but I don't think this was a real smart move. And where it is that, let's say this was going to be credit card debt. Let's say I said to you, just pretend here, okay? I said, you know what? I'm going to take out what does she have? 80,000. I'm going to take out $80,000 in credit card debt. I don't have the money to take it out, but I need it for myself and my kids. Most of you would look at me, and most of society would look at me and go, "Are you crazy? You don't have the money to pay off that credit card debt. You're taking $80,000 out." But guess what? I can go bankrupt on that 80,000. Just I can. But you see how the social tune changes when I say, "Hey, you know what? I'm trying to save the life of my 2 children and myself, and I'm trying to better ourselves, and I'm gonna take out $80,000 of student loans that I can't pay back." What happens if I said to you, "I'm gonna take out $80,000 in credit cards, but I'm doing it to better myself?" Do you see how this changes in our mind? We shame. You're taking out $80,000 to, let's just pretend, to better yourself. But okay, you're taking out $80,000 of student loans to better yourself. We have a disconnect here. And what's sad is what we promote is the thing you can't bankrupt. I guarantee it to you, Renita, yes, I wrote down her name. I guarantee it to you, Renita would bankrupt this if she could. Hey, by the way, throw in the comments because this would take a bit of work. Is anybody interested in having me do like and on this channel, you never know how long it's going to be, okay? Anyone interested in the history of Parent Plus debt, okay, as a video, and anyone interested in the history of how come student loans aren't bankruptable? I've considered doing that. Throw in the comments, is anybody interested? If you're like, "No, Carrie, we are not interested," you can throw that in there too. But before I kind of take the time to do that, throw in the comments, would you be interested in that? The history of Parent Plus loans, I'm happy to do that. And the history of how come student loans aren't bankruptable. Because I actually know, but I would put it into a nice, neat package and all of that for you. So let me know if you're interested. Okay. All right, here we go. Absent. Oh, that's the Biden stuff. I'm skipping over the Biden stuff because we are now in a new era. Okay, here we go. Too often we think of student debt as a young person's problem, but the reality is that millions of older Americans are working well into our golden years to service unpayable student debt. Retirement is as relevant to our lives as outer space. All right. Was this avoidable? Did she have to put herself in this position? I was thinking to myself earlier today while I was at the gym. I think something with student loans and why we get so emotionally tied to it goes beyond just, well, I want to get a good job or I want my children to have a good job. I think it goes beyond that. I think part of the bruising, the emotional bruising we sometimes go through with student loans, it's because whether or not you can attend the school you want, whether or not you can afford to take out that loan, really puts your socioeconomics in front of you. It puts the reality of your family's finances in front of you. Look, Renita here, truly, and I mean this with all due respect, had absolutely no business trying to put her 2 kids through college. I mean, no business at all. Over, and I will continue to preach. I don't believe parents should feel guilty because they cannot put their kids through school. If they can assist, if they want to assist, if they feel the child is deserving, is willing to work hard, has proven themselves, and the parent wants to assist in a way that is not going to bankrupt the parent's retirement, then great, go do it. Now, some people could look at me, and I'll be honest, and say, "Well, Carrie, you got your degrees, all that stuff, so it's easy for you to say that." No, because you got to remember this. I may not be a parent, but guys, I had $110,000 of student loans that I was prepared to take into retirement with me. I was prepared. It was just going to be that ball and chain on me for the rest of my life. And I remember thinking to myself, that really sucks. So not only am I going to keep making monthly payments for the rest of my life, the bill keeps going up and up. Because when I borrowed the money at 36, it was 85,000. By the time I hit 56, respectively, that was when I got it. Okay. When I got it forgiven, it was 110. I don't think I have to be a parent. I was going to say, I don't think I have to be a parent with kids, but that's kind of like double speak there. Okay. I don't think I have to be a parent to sit and go, it's a really bad idea to take out student loan debt for yourself that you can't afford and then to triple your debt with, or to what is it? Triple it? Yeah. Because she took on her 2 kids. You don't have to be a parent to say that that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. And I have to ask you, do you feel sorry for her? She says retirement is as relevant to our lives as outer space. But who made it irrelevant? Look, I'm not hating and I'm not shaming, okay? But what I am doing is I'm looking at where I've been and how close I came to the edge of the cliff of truly, truly retiring with this debt and just watching it get bigger and bigger and bigger. I understand how close I came, and it's made me really look at my mistakes and the things that I did. And that was not doing the math before I took on the student loan debt. It was thinking that the only thing that mattered, just like with car payments, was the monthly payment. I literally remember asking the lady on the phone, okay, the student loan lady or gentleman, whoever it was that answered, and saying, what's the monthly payment? If I defer this, what's the monthly payment? Yes, I remember doing that. I never stopped to think, hey, deferment, forbearance, all of that stuff, okay, the bill's going to go up. The monthly payment, well, that's really important, but it's even more important to know what the overall payment is. Just like a car, you go in the dealership, what's the monthly car payment? And they tell you, oh, it's $500. And you go, great, that's wonderful. And you go buy that car. And then you find out you're in debt for the next 8 years and you don't even have bumper to bumper insurance coverage. Okay. That sort of stuff. So I don't really feel sorry for her. We could even look at her and say, as an adult, she should have known better. At 30 years old, when I took on my student loan, I took on my student loan debt at 32 to get my 2 masters at 32 and 34. I should have known better. Now, do you see how come we can't just jump and blame the kids for doing it? We're doing it. We've done it. I've done it. I'm not sure if I really feel sorry for her. Throw in the comments. Do you feel sorry for her? She says retirement is as relevant to our lives as outer space. But who made it? It was a choice. We have to be willing to accept our choices, our responsibilities. Okay, continuing on. Many of us have loans that are so old that this is Renita talking, okay? Many of us have loans that are so old they are ineligible for the current alphabet super relief programs. Yeah, she is right, depending upon how old your student loans are, okay? Because a lot of them, and it's like, and it had to have been taken out before this date or after this date. But if you've got loans like Renita here has 20 years ago, meanwhile, oh, I'm sorry, I missed a spot. Although we have been paying for 20, 30, or 40 years, our balances have gone up, not down. Did you guys see that, young people? Did you see this? 20, 30, 40 years. Oh, yes, I really, really want to go to this school so badly. I'll pay it for 20, 30, 40 years. Look, it's channels like this trying to bring it to the front, to talk about it, for you to see, in my opinion, there is no degree worth 20, 30, 40 years of crippling student loan payment. 10 years? Yeah, okay, if you can do that, I'll bite on that. I might even chew on 15 for medical. This 20, 30, 40 year stuff, and 20, assuming again, you can afford the forgiveness bill with the IRS. So we have 20, 30, 40 years of payment. The balances have gone up, not down. Why? Why have the balances gone up? Yes, you know the answer, and I know the answer. The payments aren't big enough to go past the interest and into the principal. And I'm talking into the principal significantly, not into the principal that you're crying on TikTok. And we know some of you will be, okay? Going, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I paid for 5 years and my loan balance has only gone down $1,000. That's because you barely paid enough to go past the interest. It's a hard truth, but it's true. Meanwhile, our incomes are limited and getting lower. Yes, because the older you get, typically, what is it they say? Something like your peak earning years are somewhere around is it 50, between 50, 60 years old, something or like that. Okay. And then it kind of, your income drops after that, especially for people who get laid off in corporate. They most often have to take a pay cut because life is making way for the younger people. Remember that, younger people. Someday you're going to be there too. All right. If you're lucky, you will be. If you're lucky. All right. Meaning if you're lucky, you will be healthy and live long enough to see the older years. That's what I'm talking about. Not if you're lucky to experience layoffs and stuff. Okay. All right. So she says, meanwhile, our incomes are limited and getting older, stretching Social Security payments across gas, bills, rent, groceries, and healthcare is tough enough. Now we have to add hundreds of dollars in student loan payments to the balance. Who chose that? Who chose that? Is this something we can feel sorry for? Is this something that you go, man, I'm so sorry you had to do that? How much responsibility should we accept when we make financial decisions like taking on student loan debt that we cannot afford? How much of that is our responsibility? How much pity should we expect? I'm gonna say some people would say no pity at all. I guess if there's pity, it would be more because I didn't think before I did it and I regret it. And please, let's not be one of those people. And I think I just said the other day, oh, I don't regret that I'm $200,000 of student loan debt. No, you need to regret it, because if there isn't some regret, and I'm talking debt that you cannot pay off, this is all about people who can't pay off. All right. You need to regret that debt that you can't pay off, because you don't want to experience that lesson again. And if you have no regret for your actions, and chances are, it is my belief that you will repeat those actions. So when people say things like, oh, I don't regret going to this school, and yeah, I'm broke for the rest of my life. Well, you better have some regret, or if you don't wind up going back to school and getting into more debt because you're trying to avoid the debt you already have, you know who I'm talking to, okay? Then you're going to wind up leading your kids down the same path. No, you need to have enough regret that you don't do that action again, and you don't encourage it in your next generation of family to do it either. When we can't make a payment, our loan risks falling into default, the consequences of which are dire. Yes, tax refunds, wages, disability, Social Security. No secret there. This is why you should not take out debt you cannot afford. But here's the coolest part. Renita says of student loan debt, all of these debts will be canceled when we die, in a process known as death discharge, in which the federal government writes off billions of dollars. Well, yeah, exactly. And please, people, don't believe those scare tactics. And you see it online. You know what? When your spouse dies, you're going to be responsible for the student loan debt, only if you signed off on it. Or here's one that's even better. You know what? If your parents die with student loan debt, or if you're the parent, if you die with student loan debt and you don't pay it off, it's going to go to your kids. Are you kidding me? No, it's not going to your kids if they didn't co-sign on it. So let's get those scare tactics out of the way. That is the thing with student loan debt. As much as it's not bankruptable, as long as you don't sign, you don't co-sign, you're not the one taking out the debt, you're not taking out a Parent Plus loan. Okay, none of those shenanigans are going on. The debt only is to the person that actually signed on the line. Okay. My stepmom and dad, if they had student loan debt, which they don't, but if they did, okay, and they pass away, which, eventually everybody does, all right, and they pass away, I'm not responsible for that debt. So stop believing those scare tactics. Moving on. Between the next payment and our last breath, the federal government will charge interest, garnish wages, and offset our Social Security in the name of student loans. Yes, they will. And here's the kicker. It's not a secret at this point. Okay. I don't think if anybody's on social media watching, channels like this, all right, it's not a secret. And in some ways you might even go, well, what else do you expect them to do? I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. Okay. But yeah, that's what they're going to do. This is why I was so scared that I would retire with my student loan debt, because I understood that would be a potentially large chunk of money. And remember, you're getting a bigger bill also. All right. I don't know if it's just strictly 15%. I think that's the standard is 15%. I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to live with it. 15% it is for life. And don't forget, you're not only paying the 15% for life. Okay. If you default, any of the payments you have to make in between, all right, that will contribute to a default. Sometimes I almost think, if you're going to have student loan debt for life, don't do this. All right. But it is a thought. Wouldn't it just be easier then to go, look, you know what? I have no way to get rid of these student loans. So I could go ahead and default and just let them take it out of retirement. But what's the problem with that? Oh, yes. Then they start hacking your bank accounts, and they don't need notice. They don't need to give you notice that they're going to do it. Although I suspect they probably have sent notices to many people, and some people are ignoring those notices. So it's a tricky roadmap. But all I know is I was ready to retire with my student loan debt. It was going to be sad. Oh, and then here's the other thing, guys. When you have a whole lot of debt, it can really affect relationships and who wants to date you. I know I'm not trying to be mean, okay? But we got to think about it. All right, let's go back to Eva's world here. Thank you, Eva, for allowing us to use your channel as an example. Eva, I think, is like 27 years old now, right around there or so, okay? 200,000, any takers? Want to take that on? 200,000 and growing? We have to look at the true realities of what student loan debt does. And even to older people too, perhaps you want to remarry, Maybe someday I would like to remarry. All right. If I said to you, I'm coming with let's just say, let's put down what I had. I'm coming to you with $110,000 student loan debt that I can't pay off. Could it potentially detract suitors? And I mean men to women and women to men, yada, yada. Yeah, it can. Your student loan debt, I think today, certainly not when I was growing up, okay, when I was in my 20s. Matter of fact, student loan debt wasn't really even a topic of conversation. I mean, part of it's probably because there was no social media, but people just didn't carry the debt loads that they have today. Now, if you want to date an Eva, in Eva's world, okay, on TikTok, you now might step aside and go, oh, you have $200,000 of student loan debt. Yeah. Unlike what Ramsey says, oh, just go ahead, marry them and figure it out. No, I think you really, really need to ask yourself, what sacrifices do you want to make? And I'll be honest, okay? At this age, all right, I would not, I'm going to be honest, I would not be attracted to someone that had a crap load of student loan debt with absolutely no financial resources to pay it off. Like the income doesn't support it. There isn't property and real estate to pay it off. It's just, hey, Carrie, I'm just pretending here. Okay. I have no retirement. I have a whole bunch of student loan debt and there's no way for us to get out of it. Yeah, I would not be attracted, and I would not expect someone to be attracted to me. Fortunately, I did get out of my student loan debt and I will have a 30-year retirement in 11 years, yada, yada. Okay. 30-year teacher pension, but it's the realities of what debt does, you guys. Okay. Let's see here. Because of these loans, we will be denied mortgages. Yes. We will take on second jobs. Rita is correct. Our mental and physical health will suffer under the crushing weight of unpayable sums. Okay. But I want to bring us back to the first question, or one of the first questions I asked. How many minutes ago? 31 minutes ago. Is this avoidable? If I say to you, oh my goodness, this is just crushing me, and you say, hey, how did the accident happen? And I say to you, hey, I signed off a whole bunch of student loan debt. I mean, I signed up on a whole bunch of student loan payments, Parent Plus for the 2 kids, my own student loan debt. How much pity do you have? And this is why this channel will never, ever run out of things to talk about, because this will last for forever, long after I'm gone. And then she says, when we die, however, the balance will finally be zero. Yes, it's pretty much zero for everybody. For this reason, relieving older Americans of their debt is a sensible policy that deserves support even from debt relief skeptics. Let's face it, these old debts are unlikely to be repaid and will get canceled one way or another. Relieving elders of these burdens prior to death makes such more sense than discharging them at our funerals. Well, I can tell you right now, and I don't like to get political, with the current administration, I think they're just going to let you take it to your death, and I think you will continue paying on it. And again, as a courtesy reminder for PSLF, that could only be completely written off by Congress. I am aware that there is something called a big, beautiful bill and all that. You've not heard me talk about it as it relates to student loans on this channel, because I don't really wish to talk about it until it actually gets enacted. Otherwise, it's like all of us run around going, oh my gosh, the house is on fire, and no one's even actually lit the house yet. You see what I mean? So I will obviously get to it when the Senate is all done voting and the votes are passed, yada, yada, for whatever it is. Okay. But I'm fully aware clearly of what's going on with it. Not only would it unburden us to enjoy our twilight years, but it would also be good for families and neighbors. Okay. Again, when you are taking on student loan debt, and this may sound a little bit hypocritical, I admit it, okay, because my debt was forgiven, all right? When you take on student loan debt, you should be only thinking of your needs, listen here, and not be thinking of your family and neighbors. And the reason, I'm hoping this comes out correctly, the reason I'm saying this is, there are plenty of people, and rightfully so. Okay. I'm again, I have to give them some support that go, look, it's not our job to pay your student loan debt. Okay. You don't get to do the job of your dreams, and you don't get to have the extra added financial benefit because you have a college degree. You don't get that. You don't get those perks and then stick it to us to forgive the loan later, because it is true. When a loan is forgiven, it's not written off. Okay. People are paying that bill for you. So I can understand people saying, no, it should not be written off in your twilight years. You are responsible for it. Something to think about. And let's look at it like this. Let's say we have 2 households, okay? And one household has household A and household B. Keep it real simple. Household A, there's mom, dad, and the kids. And the kids don't go to college. They do not go, because mom, dad know it can't be afforded. or anything like that, and the mom and dad refuse to take out student loan debt, and so the family goes on their merry way and finds their trades and find their ways in the world, and maybe they don't make quite as much because they don't have a college degree. And then you got family B that, true, they cannot afford the college degree, but they're going to go ahead and take out all the Parent Plus loans, all the, FAFSA federal loans and all of that stuff, all the private loans. And then their kids are able to have advantages. Okay. House B gets advantages that House A could not get. And then the twilight years come along for House A and House B. And House B looks at House A and says, hey, guess what? We're tired of paying our student loan debt. It's now your responsibility to take it over. Look, I totally get it. I get the understanding as to why there are plenty of people that really, really believe, look, you know what? You took on that debt, you pay it. And to a certain extent, I can't say that I disagree with it. However, if there is a law such as PSLF that says, look, okay, I'll work for 10 years in some public service, military, police, firefighter, nurse, whatever, okay, nonprofit, approved nonprofit, stuff like that, and I fulfill that legal requirement, and that is written into law, then I believe that if someone's able to do that and they get loan forgiveness, and that's fine because that's as it was written in the books. But I could totally understand why House A would look at House B and go, don't be giving us your old student loans that you could not afford even when you took it out. And here's the thing, Rita, the author, knew she could not afford those loans. How did she know? Because she already had student loans herself. And then she took out 2 more loans, those being Parent Plus loans for her kids. So can we really expect people to feel sorry for her because her twilight years are all screwed up, but yet her kids got a financial and economic and career advantage that other kids did not get because perhaps their parents were more financially responsible? It's almost, and I totally get it. It's like the people who did not go to college are being punished by paying the bills of those who go. I get it. I understand it. And I can empathize with that feeling. Okay. But on a personal note, no, I don't feel guilty about my PSLF because I do a job that most people would never touch. All right. I just happen to really love it. Okay. So she says here, moving on, we are, where did I start here? Although you wouldn't know it from our loan statements, we are aging student debtors, are doing essential work. We are the teachers, social workers, therapists, nurses, aid, yada, yada. We are raising our children, our grandchildren. We care for our elders. Relieving us of student debt is not a drain on public resources, as some critics contend. It supports working families and communities. But again, rewind 5 minutes, and I can see the other side and why they say, no, we don't want to take your debt on. Canceling these debt is good policy, and it is absolutely possible. The Department of Education has the power. But remember what I've said to you. Yes, and I think I said this in just a video or two ago. Yes, it is possible for the Department of Education, not going to happen in this administration, okay? But it is possible to forgive student loans, but it's not going to be done. Why? The banks. The banks are expecting, the banks are licking their chops. They're licking their lips here, okay? Because all these student loan people that are in debt, all these student loan debtors, they are the bank's profit. And this is why when people say, well, I don't understand how come they just can't wipe away all student loan debt. One, it's not fair to the people who live in House A that never went to college, that did the fiscally responsible thing. Okay. They never went to college. Their parents said, look, we don't have the funds. It's not fair to them. I get it. All right. And the other thing is the banks are going to go, it ain't fair to us because we're the banks and we're expecting to make a certain amount of interest and then some on top of all of the student loans that we give out to people. So the banks aren't wanting to give up their profit, and it's pure and simple. That's really, to me, that's the really big reason. If banks were willing to give up their profit and go, okay, for the good of America, then sure, you could give it up. It's not happening. And it's also part of the reason, by the way, that student loans became unbankruptable. Like I said earlier, throw in the comments, are you interested in me doing 2 videos? One would be on the history of Parent Plus loans, and the second would be on the history of student loan debt being non-bankruptable. Okay. I don't really want to do it if nobody's interested in it but me. And I already kind of know the story. Okay. All right. So discharging debt based on a debtor's age falls squarely within congressionally approved regulations. I told you that it did. Okay. And we're not going to read about right and left. I've already kind of explained that. Okay. Moving on. Okay, leading, because this is current, I'm going to go ahead and read the politics because this is more current. Leading Republicans, including elect Donald Trump, want to block student loan cancellation across the board. Indeed, some have proposed that they will try to reinstate any debts wiped away by the Biden administration. Something experts say will be difficult, if not impossible to do. Yeah, I had my 110,000 wiped away. So how are you going to figure out my bill now? Been a couple years. How are you going to figure that out? I mean, you would have to mathematically calculate, okay, what's my interest? What's my new rate? I'm not concerned about that happening. Not even a wink of sleep on that. Okay. She says, one day I'd like to retire too, or at least work only one job. Well, I only have one question. Could she have avoided this whole situation in the first place?
College in November 2020 with a bachelor's degree in marketing. Now, more than a year later, she's working as a trainee at a car rental company and living with her mom.
It's entry level and I make $15 an hour. You don't need a college degree to do what I'm doing.
All right, we're going to stop. This is going to have a fair number of interruptions as we go through these three stories. And as stated, you can skip forward using the fast forward buttons, and I will have the three stories available at the end so you can play them straight through. Just go ahead and skip through the fast forward. But for those who have the time to kick it with me this Saturday, okay, or whatever day you play this, we're going to detail this. All right. So first off, how many people have gone to college, gotten done with college, and you say to yourself, with whatever job you have landed, I didn't need a college degree to do this, right? And you can really, I heard this story and you can hear the depression in her voice. You really can. And she's a recent college graduate and she's like, I'm basically working at a rental car company. I don't need a degree to do this. And I was talking to, someone the other day, I can't remember who it was, one of my social peeps. And we were talking about the fact that it was my sister. Duh, because I just got back from vacation. Oh, and to the person who asked if I charged my vacation, no. My, and I hate to say it, going home to me, I mean, I call it vacation because it's all out of Tampa, but it's not really vacation. I think a vacation like going on a cruise or something, but I'm going home, but it doesn't matter. Vacation or not, it's always paid for way in advance. That way I can just go and have fun and relax. And also to the person who said that they couldn't take me seriously with the kitty ears, today I put on the bunny ears for you. All right. So just so you know, so hopefully that helps a little bit. Now then, back to the topic. Yes, we have to go with the flow on this channel. Okay. But here's the thing, a lot of us, my sister and I were talking about, and that is we can easily get stuck into jobs that not only don't use your college degree, but they don't even pay you very well. So, and we were talking about why that seems, and I think there are many answers clearly, but I think one of them for me is that it takes effort, you guys, to really, really change your life around. And here's another kicker that we may not think about. Sometimes it may even take a change of who you're hanging out with, under the same roof or not. I'm not advocating splitting up and all that, okay? But what I am saying is something that I have learned is you want to change your position, you have to look at the people you are hanging around and how they are either positively or negatively influencing your dreams, your goals, your hopes. And I think that's why it's very easy for people when they get into a lower wage job or even a job that maybe pays decent, but they just hate the job. It takes work to actually change it. It's kind of like trying to stay in shape. Okay. I'm in my gym gear. Okay. It's really, really hot in here today because I already had a $225 electric bill last month, which is really high. So I'm trying to, cool myself down here, but I'm in my gym gear because y'all know I go to the gym afterwards. And here's the thing is it's easy. It's just like exercise. It's easy for us to sit and gain weight. It's harder for us to control the weight, to kind of watch what we eat a little bit. Okay, although I do eat dessert every night. That's what I've done. I just do that. That's my thing. I eat dessert every night. I just eat it in proportion. Some nights I skip it, but not very often. So she's in this car rental job, and there is a very good chance, and it's scary if you really think about it, that she could be stuck in this for a long time. And part of it, I'm thinking that she could possibly be stuck in is the community she's in, the people she is surrounded with. And they'll talk about that later in here. But how many of you, honestly, throw in the comments, have you ever done a job after college that you knew you did not need to do a degree to have that job? Throw in the comments if you're like, yep, this is the job I did after college and I did not need a degree. I can tell you the job I did after college, I absolutely did not need a degree. And oddly enough, it was in my major. It was broadcasting. It was running a radio station like late at night and stuff. This is when they had 8 tracks. You didn't need no degree to do that job, even though I actually had a broadcasting job, a broadcast major. So throw in the comments, what degree did you do after college? You didn't need it.
That everyday stuff like answering phones, making reservations, walking around cars, you don't need a college degree for that at all.
What Asia's talking about is underemployment, doing a job that underuses her 4-year education. One study found 43% of college grads are underemployed, and it's happening to more women than men.
But you know why I think it's also happening to more women than men is the fact that more women are going to college than men. That's part of it. And that's part of why I think somebody put in the comments the other day. Yes, I actually do read your comments. I try. I have to be honest. I don't have a chance to read all of them, but I do at least try to skim them to the best of my ability. Okay. Because I appreciate you taking the time to do it. So at least I could do is try to look at it. Okay. And I really do. But here's the thing. Someone put in the comments the other day something about why is it that it's the women that seem to be online complaining the most? Because the TikTok that I just did yesterday, which I will put up at the end, okay, it was all women, I think, except for one guy. And it's not because I'm intentionally looking for women, okay? I don't look for a race, a religion, a sex, or anything else. I just look for what they're saying. And is it clear without too many expletives? And is there a visual that I can use, a picture? Okay, because some of you guys need to learn to angle your camera so we can actually see your lovely faces. But more women are going to college than men. So it's not surprising, perhaps, that more women are the ones doing the complaining about how expensive college is, the debt that they're in, and all of that.
Even though women earn the majority of bachelor's degrees, Black and Hispanic students face even higher levels of underemployment.
I feel confused sometimes because it's just like I had this idea of what my life would be like at this age, and that's just not exactly how it is.
Is she a victim? Is she a victim of what she's been told? I know we're doing that same refrain over and over. They told me to go to school. They told me. I get it. Okay. But sometimes we hear it and we go, oh my God, we roll our eyes. We say one more person. And then you put a face to it and you see the innocence in that face. I'm just saying. Okay. You see the innocence in it and you're like, what were you told that made you believe this could be done?
Study after study shows that students pursue a college degree as a bridge to opportunity. Too often, colleges and universities don't like to talk about careers. And it's especially doing a disservice to students of color and to women who don't necessarily have the social capital to navigate their way to a good job without the support of learning the right things in the classroom and getting the right connections into good jobs. That means that women are starting out behind. So if you start out behind, then that could go a long way toward explaining why women across the arc of their careers are earning less than men.
And as you said, if you start out behind and you're a minority, then you're even further behind the 8 ball.
No staff member just cared about me. Nobody mentored me. Not that they have to, but it's just like nobody cared to do that or even offer me that option. And I looked for options, but I never found anything.
I would like to know a bit more about that. When she said no one cared, no one offered me anything. I would like more information about that. And I would like more information about, I looked for opportunities, but didn't find anything. Not to blame her, but it's sometimes, did you know where to look? Did you know where to go to get that opportunity? And then the fact that she says no one cared about me. I will question, depending upon the school that she went to. Okay. Some schools are more likely, Well, let me finish one thought first, okay? Some schools are more likely to be more involved with their students. I don't know, teacher student ratio, all of that stuff. And then, we had a lot of those fly by night schools, right? A lot of those schools that wound up just, you were just a dollar a number. And like Corinthian colleges, God, they suck, okay? But like Corinthian colleges and stuff, they weren't looking out for your best interest, not the corporation that was running it, and possibly not even the instructors. So that depending upon the environment that she went in, I could see how she might come out feeling like nobody, took care of me. But I think there's something else that young people have to realize. College is not going to hold your hand perhaps the way you think. The instructors are there to get you through a class. All those different instructors, all those different classes, but the whole package has to be put together by you. In other words, this is why so many people can go to school and never use the degree. They never landed a job in it. Perhaps they didn't have, as the news report said, I think it was the capital resources. And what the news reporter's meaning by that is, do you know the people that can help you to get ahead? Excuse me. Do you know those people? And those are the contacts that you need to make. This is why in college, guys, it's really, really important to make contacts. If I had to do it over again, to be really honest, one of the things I would have done a whole lot better job at keeping contacts of the people I went to school with. And today is easier than ever. You got social media to help you keep yourself in check with each other. But when I was in college, there was no social networking for us to have. I mean, it was literally pen, paper, pencil. And if you lost that piece of paper with that person's name, there was no way you were going to be able to do a Google search. Remember, it didn't exist back then, at least not as we know it today, because I'm almost 58, so I'm Gen X. I would have made a lot uh, better decisions, I guess, to keep in contact with the people I knew from school, because you all majored in the same thing, hypothetically, up to a certain point, right? You're all graduating as a class together in a certain field. Start keeping track of each other's names. You may be able to help each other. I failed to do that. And my suspicion is she had no contacts and or did not have the skills to know how to build the contacts. Those are all skills, folks. And let's face it, without getting on a rant here, okay? Social media, here's what Gen X complains about a lot, okay? And I think we rightfully complain about it. A lot of you young people really, really don't know how to connect with people on a personal one-to-one level unless you have a cell phone in your hand. Now, I am not hating or shaming or anything like that. Don't get me wrong here, okay? But here's the thing. You're going from college, where I know you darn well you got all your cell phones, and then you have to go and get a job in the real world. Well, that is going to take people connections. That's going to take looking somebody in the eye, putting away the cell phone, okay? Building up your verbal communication skills. Even things like the way you dress, your facial expressions, the air that comes out of your mouth. Okay? People do this without even realizing it, because your whole world is built around a cell phone. Again, I am not shaming or hating. Please don't get me wrong on that. But there are some serious skills that are missing. I had a student a few years back that did not know how to read an analog clock. So I taught them the big hand and the little hand. They were in 8th grade. This was probably about 3-4 years ago. And I told them something about, look at the clock, because I had an analog clock in my room. And they said, I don't know how to read it. We're talking basic skills. So of course, being a teacher, I taught them how to read it. Okay. That's my job, right? No hate, no shame. Now then, for her to get a job in the area that she wants, in her degree area, when people say I got out of college and the job did not just, I mean, I know she didn't say it, but work with me here. The job just didn't magically fall in my lap. No, that's where every skill that you have that does not involve your cell phone needs to come into play. Did you build any? Did you build any while you were in high school? Did you take internships? Did you do job opportunities that force you to work with bosses, supervisors, managers, team leads, peers, equals? Okay. Did you take opportunity to do that? She's raised, it appears, by a single mom. Now, I don't know if the mother is widowed or not. Okay. So we're not going to jump to any conclusions on that, but she's living in a household with a single mom in I won't say poor, but not a wealthy area town, I'm sure. And she's trying to build her life. She goes and she gets a degree that people say, well, bring her the riches. And then it doesn't. But the part that's missing, that's not told by the college recruiters and stuff, is what are your people skills like? Can you convince me to interview you and to hire you? How do you speak? Do you speak with conviction? Yes, ignore the bunny ears, okay? They're just a part of me naturally. But these are skills that I am going to suspect she has not or had not built up yet.
I'm a first generation college student, so nobody knows the path that I've been walking, the journey that I've had. At the end of the day, it's just me. College, it can be a good thing, but it's not what it's painted out to be. I don't feel like I got anything tangible, like an actual career, something that could set me up in the future. I don't feel like I got any of that. I feel like I got student loan debt. That's what I feel like I got. About $30,000.
Asia says she's applying to about 20 jobs a day while working full-time, but no luck yet.
How many TikTok? I have to change the banner on that. I'm doing my commentary as the video plays. So I apologize for that banner error. How many of you guys have applied to 20 jobs plus a day? You're working full time. You know what's amazing is I didn't have to do that in the 80s when I was growing up. Applying to 20 jobs was almost like unheard of. It's like you get a job after, a couple of resumes, go out and stuff, maybe a little more than a couple. Okay, and it wasn't per day. Maybe you applied to 10, 15 jobs total. The numbers, and I have to be honest, I am really feeling for some of the young people out there because it just seems unreal that employers are putting you, especially corporate employers, okay, seem to be putting people through just these interview ringers. And of course, you're dealing with, fake job applications. You're dealing with the AI computers picking everybody and all of that stuff. I can't even imagine it. Plus working a full-time job.
Although it's not a guarantee, a 2021 Georgetown study does show that a college education generally pays off in the long run.
I feel like there's a lot that I can do. I feel like there's a lot for me to accomplish. I feel like this is just a bump along the way that I'm learning how to overcome. You just have to be patient. That's what I kept telling myself. That's what I still tell myself.
It hasn't.
Okay, we're going to go into the next one, and she is a school teacher. I will say at the end here, she had a GoFundMe. This video is about 2 years old. She had a GoFundMe. She raised about $13,000. The GoFundMe has long closed. I actually did check, but she raised about $13,000. But this is her story. For those of you new to this channel, I am a teacher, so my heart really goes out heavy on this particular case. But I'll be honest, as I go through it, I think there are some mistakes that perhaps were made that could avoid anyone, teacher or not, being in the situation that she is in. So let's hear it.
Been easy at all. I come and I try to spruce myself up and keep a smile on my face, but on the inside, it's a struggle.
Teaching school children is all 37-year-old Natalie Shakesnider has ever wanted to do. But the 6th grade teacher never imagined she'd be working full-time and still unable to make ends meet.
I've been between my car, Motel 6, and an Airbnb whenever I can afford it.
Shakesnider drove from her home state of Mississippi to take a teaching job in Richmond 2 years ago.
I had no idea that I would come here, leaving Mississippi, leaving a home, and come here to being homeless. I have to run my car a lot.
So chances are she leaves Mississippi, all right? She's probably trying to escape possibly some poverty. I got to be honest, okay? I don't know much about Mississippi except for probably the negative things. That's just what I know. Like, I've never heard of wealthy people in Mississippi. I'm sure they exist. Excuse me. But let's just go ahead. Excuse me, I just choked. But we'll go ahead and go with her version. She says she escaped Mississippi. So I'm going to assume that she was probably also trying to escape poverty.
Just to have the warmth.
She's been unable to find affordable housing, so she rents an Airbnb or motel room. And every month when the money runs out,
Sleep there, keep my car running as long as I can when I do have gas to do that.
she sleeps in her car.
Thankful for the grocery stores, gas stations where I go to kind of wash up and take care of hygiene to come to work.
Always, always. Yes. Grocery stores, gas stations, gyms, things like that. Good places if you're going to be living in your car. I don't know how people are living in their car because my car registers 100 degrees when I get out of school. And that's not even in the heat of summer. That's just as summer's kind of beginning. So I'm not sure. I'm thinking I would probably go to a movie theater and see if I couldn't just sleep in the back. I doubt that would happen because now the seats are sold in advance, but it might be worth a try.
My bleaching things, and when I go to the gas stations, restrooms, I clean up the bathrooms. Most nights I'm scared, it's unsafe, but I get up in the mornings and I still come to work.
Our starting salary here for a teacher is about 50, in sort of the mid to late 50s. That is not sufficient to be able to independently live. To the county.
The president of the teachers union says Shake Snyder is not the only teacher living on the edge. He says West Contra Costa School District teachers are among the lowest paid in the Bay Area.
Now I want you to stop for a minute here. $50,000 a year in the Bay Area. I'm thinking she might not have been that knowledgeable about the cost of living. One of the things that you should do before you move, you can actually type in, compare cost of living, and it will bring you up charts, graphs, and all of that stuff that will compare your income that you currently make to where you want to go and what you would need for cost of living. I don't know how worldly she is, but I can tell you that let's see, I live here in Tampa. I make 63,000. Teacher salaries are not a secret. You can look up any teacher's salary range. Maybe not that personal teacher, but you can look up, how many years does a 19-year teacher make in Florida, as I'm entering my 20th year this fall. But if somebody had said to me, or someone said to me, Carrie, would you leave Tampa to move to the Bay Area? And we'll pay you $50,000 respectively dollars a year. I would look at you and go, are you crazy? $50,000 in the Bay Area? No, you couldn't haul me to the Bay Area. 100 grand is what I would require. That'd be my start. If someone tried to get me to go from Tampa to the Bay Area, one of the most expensive, Bay Area sits right up there with New York, Seattle. So I'm thinking she really didn't know what she was stepping into income-wise. She was in Mississippi. She's probably seen this as a great opportunity to get out. Always remember, though, an opportunity is not great, you guys, if it doesn't put you ahead, if you cannot gain. For me to have an opportunity, where have we heard something like this before? Where have we heard this? Oh, yes, student loan debt. People go, oh, I'm going to go take out a bunch of student loan debt. And then they're so far behind in student loan debt, they can't catch up and they actually retire with it. Hey, I've done TikToks and videos on people with student loan debt that I can pretty much tell you, I believe they're going to take it very close to retirement. And it's going to be what cost them their retirement. In other words, yeah, okay, you paid off your student loan debt, but you can't retire because you have no savings because it all went to the student loan. She had no idea. Okay, I'm saying with a question mark, exclamation point, that $50,000 a year in the Bay Area, that ain't squat. That'd probably be making like $30,000 here in Tampa. Of course, you can't live on it. I can totally see why she's living in her car. It makes total sense to me.
I don't regret coming here because I love that I'm chasing my dream.
No. Okay. I've said to you guys before, sometimes when we do something that is not a smart move, we're going to claim that we have no regret. Remember Eva's World, $200,000 NYU degree. All right. And she says she has no regrets that she carries a $200,000 student loan bill that she cannot pay off, that she's going to make minimum payments on for the rest of the next 25 years. Then she gets to pay the IRS, yada, yada. We say we don't regret it. Let's be honest here. We don't regret our unwise moves because we can't take them back. I would totally understand her if she said, I completely regret that I did not check on the cost of living before coming here. I regret that I perhaps should have done more due diligence before accepting this job offer and taking this move. I don't regret the choice of career that I decided, which is to educate, one educator to another here. Okay. So I respect her in that, but I do regret the move. It is okay to say that, you know what, this wasn't quite the wise move that I should have done. And I have some regret on that. It is okay to say that. But so much of us, it's that ego part of us. We don't want to say we regret it because that's going to make us feel like we failed. I sometimes think it's better to say, I regret this dumb move that I did. I'm not calling her move dumb. Okay. Well, okay. I don't regret this move that I did. I don't regret the field that I chose. But if I had to do it over again, I would make sure that I was making enough not to sleep in my car. If I make a move that puts me in my car at night on the news report and showering in the bathrooms and all of that stuff, I'm sorry, I messed up somewhere. And somewhere or another, perhaps I need to have some regret so I don't make that same move again.
But it makes me sad to know that I'm doing this while most times sleeping in my car. It's really sad.
But if you don't regret it, does it become a choice?
Shake Snyder says she wasn't prepared for the high cost of living in California. And she says she's met many others who are working, some multiple jobs, who are homeless too.
It's not.
There's a problem there. There's a pattern. There's a problem. Who's got the solution? Well, one solution that I think that would have kept her out of this, she shouldn't have taken this job at that pay. She should have gone to a different state. Not saying that Florida pays all that well, but it pays better cost of living ratio wise. Bay Area, oh my gosh.
A personal thing. I believe like it's the Bay Area, California thing where there are people who are working jobs, getting up every day, going to work, and yet still doesn't have a safe, comfortable place to live.
She says California's teachers deserve way more than what they get paid.
Now, I will admit, it does surprise me. It's like, how do you expect people to teach or be, service staff, hotel service staff and stuff? How do you expect them to do that in the area when you don't even pay enough to live in the area?
Though she loves her Richmond students, she tells us she may move back to Mississippi at the end of the school year. But she's determined to continue pursuing her passion.
I love my students a lot too. I love my career, but I'm going to be honest. I don't love anything enough that I'm going to, well, maybe my sisters, okay, for my sisters, all right? But other than that, I'm not sleeping in a car for anybody if I can help it. And I expect the same in return. I don't expect someone, oh, I love Carrie so much and I'm willing to sleep in my car for her. No. So she says she loves her students and all that, okay? Great, but the students aren't the one putting the roof over your head. You as the adult have to figure that out. Again, it's just that, oh, but I love my students and I love this. And, I really want to be a teacher. That's great. But when you're sleeping in your car, something has gone wrong. And what's gone wrong is you picked a job at a pay rate in a city that you cannot afford. I mean, sweet Jesus, I'm here in Tampa on 63,000 and I live in 840 square feet. And that's in Tampa. So I can make ends meet each month and I can maintain my debt-free lifestyle, yada, yada. But come on, 50,000 in Bay Area, that's like criminal pay.
I wake up every day not knowing how it's going to end. All I do know is that I'm going to teach, and that's what gives me joy. That's what I live by.
Honestly, she would have been better off staying in Mississippi, most likely, for less pay. I'm willing to bet. I think they said she was considering moving back. Story 3, here we go.
Carolyn's clothes hang neatly in the back seat of her car.
I'm a neat freak.
And are organized in the trunk.
This is my dry cleaning my silks, which I can't afford right now.
Dry cleaning is the least of her concerns for this 78-year-old.
78 years old. Great grandma is living in the car. I hope she's in a better place today. These reports aren't that old.
She's been living in her car for nearly 2 months because she can't afford a place to live.
I look at it as a journey. I've had many journeys in my life.
Money is tight because her only income is Social Security.
How many times you heard it? Okay. If I save one person their retirement, I'm telling you, if I save one person, You cannot retire on Social Security alone. You just can't do it. It's impossible, especially if you're retiring as a renter. Okay. I mean, it's hard enough to live on just Social Security when you retire and your place is paid off and all you need to deal with are property taxes. Now, I know people will say, oh, property taxes, you get your house taken then. I don't know anyone that's had their property taken because of taxes. I do know people have had property taken because they could not pay the mortgage. But honestly, the property taxes, and you can have those suckers spread out. I have my property taxes spread out. So I pay, which reminds me, for my birthday, yes, I need to pay my property tax. Glad I reminded myself.
She's sold many of her possessions over the last few years, but she still doesn't have enough money. We spoke with her here in a well-lit parking lot in North Broward, where she spends time doing word puzzles.
Where it has the large letters for people like me.
And sleeping, sitting up.
You can tell by the way she dresses, how her car looks. It tells me that perhaps she once led, I could be wrong, that perhaps she once led a very comfortable lifestyle. Her car is immaculately clean. I mean, you look at a lot of people, they're living in their car and it looks like they're living in their car. Something I've always believed, just because you're broke and poor doesn't mean you have to live dirty, unclean, and all of that. So it always surprises me when maybe that shouldn't surprise me at this age, when I see poverty and I just see dirt and crud all over the place. It's like, why? Okay, I've been bankrupt twice and I've always had clean floors, a clean bed, yada, yada. But something tells me that perhaps she led an upper class lifestyle. And I'm also wondering if she perhaps was a housewife or something like that, because she has no extra income, but no, she has Social Security, so she got some there. So I don't know what she did. I was thinking if you were a housewife, you don't collect Social Security, which I think is kind of unfair, but.
Since I've been here, I sleep here in the seat, squinched down. My ankles and legs are swollen from having to sit all the time. I buy jug water, it's cheaper. And I eat one meal a day for $2.02, and then I get a free senior drink.
Wow, that's grandma. The comment about the housewives and Social Security. From what I understand, they don't get Social Security if they're raising kids at home. At least that's what that's what I understand. But I'm not sure why it is they don't get Social Security. I'm a little confused on that. I've never really understood that. I mean, I understand they say Social Security because you're going to go out and you're going to go work for somebody. But if somebody, I'm getting a little off topic here, but this channel, but if somebody is at home and let's say they're, I'm not a parent, okay, raising kids, perhaps the husband is working and they're helping support that. I just don't understand. Even if it was just rock bottom dollar, but from what I understand, they get nothing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But here's grandma eating basically for less than $3 a day. And I hadn't thought about it. Did you hear the part where she said her feet are swollen? I never thought about that. You're sitting like that for hours on end. Yeah, your feet would swell up and you're in a hot car, possibly to top it off. I don't know how she does it, but I would like to know why she's in this situation. I mean, obviously we know it's because she doesn't have money, but I would like the story of her beforehand, because the way she keeps herself tells you that somewhere along the line there was money. And was it just perhaps overspending?
Gets free gym memberships as part of her Medicare plan.
I do go shower and do my makeup, my hair. It can happen to anyone. Don't think it can't, because I never thought about it.
Carolyn has not lost her sense of humor despite living in her 22-year-old car.
That's my baby. She's falling apart like me.
Reminiscing about days gone by.
It's very glamorous.
It was wonderful. When we walked home back to the streets of Paris in the middle of the night. It was fun.
Life for 77-year-old Mary McGrory used to be a glamorous affair, but for the last 3 years she's been living alone on the streets of Miami in her van.
The porta potty should go under there, but I have to have a carpenter arrange that, do it for me.
We're first going to serve the handicap and then everybody else by number.
Like thousands of seniors in South Florida, Mary depends on handouts from churches and charities. She receives a few $100s a month in social welfare payments, but it's not enough for a safe place to live.
I sold my house because I couldn't pay the taxes, pay the gardener, pay everything. My mother did. But when she passed on and gave me her house, I began to realize that I couldn't afford it.
Mary tells us she can't even afford basic medication despite the fact she has skin cancer, and living like this isn't helping her chances of moving on.
I want to get into an apartment, but a friend of mine pointed out to me that if I have to be decontaminated, and my dog, before we even go in the apartment. All my stuff has to be de-ticked.
Mary faces an uneasy future, but it's one that many in her generation are now being forced to deal with.
All right. I'm going to assume that Mary has probably passed away by now. This was in 2012, so we're talking about 12 years ago, and she was 77. And in this medical condition, I don't see how she could possibly make it into her 90s. So we're going to assume she has passed away. All right. And we are going to use her story of senior poverty as a way for us to not be in the same position.
Reminiscing about days gone by. It's very glamorous.
It was wonderful.
All right, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. Let me go ahead and shoot this. There you go. You know, when I saw this story, this very much reminded me, she's 77. So she was actually pretty much, she was a little bit older than my late mom was. Okay. But I look at this, I'm sure we've seen stuff like this in, whether it's in, school books or just your parents' memorabilia, scrapbooks and stuff. Doesn't this look like fun? I want you to think, especially you young people, I'm talking 20s, 30s, and possibly even early 40s, okay? There's not a care in the world in that photo about retirement. There's not a care in the world about money. I have to be honest, I'm not sure which one she is. If she's the one on the left or the right. I'm almost thinking she looks more like the one on the right, but I could be wrong. She did that. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Okay. And the photo's a little bit fuzzy to top it off. Okay. You can put in the comments, which one do you think she is? Because they don't actually say. But I want you to look at how they're dressed and the lifestyle. And you young people, aren't you doing that right now? You're having your fun time. You're having your good time. And don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing you because you're young and having a good time. Okay. I want you to be young and have a good time. Do it, please. But I want you to see what's missing here. Oh, yes. What am I going to be doing when I'm old? What am I? Oh, by the way, I went to a Culver's the other day. I didn't even ask for it. The lady at the counter says, "Would you like the senior discount?" Oh, I'm not sure whether I want to, I wasn't sure whether to laugh, cry, or thank her for the 20 cents I saved. Either way, okay? But when you look at a photo like this, you are not thinking about living out of a van with your dog and having skin cancer. You're not thinking that. And I think at times, if my parents had not stressed to me that you need to plan for a retirement, I remember my stepmother said to me that one of the first things she said to me when I became a teacher, she was like, one sentence: plan for your retirement, use this job to help you get there. That might have been 2 or 3 sentences, but of course I added in my own extra thought. But she said to me, plan your retirement. She said, this is the time. I listened. For all the messed up things I've done in life, I actually did listen to my parents when they said things, when they told me things like plan your retirement. I was utterly shocked when I saw this video, and I just saw it the other day. It's been around for years and years, but I just saw it the other day. Now then, what are you going to do to make sure that you don't go from a ball and gown sort of atmosphere to living out of your van, where basically nobody wants to hang around with you? Or the people that hang around with you are the social service people that work the streets. Usually they're the ones that have been in the same condition and position. And I'm going to be honest, folks, I don't know if it's because there's a lot of mental health issues attached to it. Okay. But I think we can all be brutally honest here. There is some sort of prejudice. There is some sort of assumptions that we make about people who are living on the street. We do it whether we intend to or not. It automatically happens. Maybe we stay 2 steps further away. Maybe we try to glance in another direction so we don't make eye contact. Because to make eye contact now means I recognize that you're human, or you recognize that I'm human. Nobody plans to go from the ball gown of this photograph, or whatever the ball gown is in your life, whatever that fun time is that you're currently having, to living in poverty on the street. And I never really thought about it, but oh my gosh, imagine poverty with cancer on top of it. Skin cancer is a cancer.
Walked home back to the streets of Paris in the middle.
The streets of Paris. Think about this. The streets of Paris. Anybody thinking about the streets of van life? And don't be following those TikTokers that make van life seem all cool. Oh, I just love waking up in my van every day. Let me tell you something. I think half of them are fake. In other words, they live in a van because they want to. And the minute they want out, they're in an apartment if they don't already have an apartment to begin with. In other words, a lot of people in van life, you guys have a fallback. I don't care if that fallback is mom and dad or siblings' house or best friend's house. They have a fallback out of that van, which is why they're able to do the van so easily. Remember when those TikTokers, they're a famous family. No, it's not the Kardashians, but I just saw it on TikTok, and they basically got the cold shoulder by social media because they went to go work at Walmart dressed up, kind of like cosplay, dress up as Walmart employees, and they're like a couple of really rich kids. Okay. And people are like, great, you're pretending, you're pretending for fun, where I actually have to do for a living. Look, a lot of those van life things that you see, I swear, the reason they're so happy, they got money in their bank accounts and they have a fallback. I could do a story on, hey, let's live with my Toyota Corolla for a month or a weekend or whatever. It's never as hard when you have a fallback. But those of you that are walking the streets of Paris right now in your life, in other words, you're in a great time of your life. How are you going to keep it that way? So you don't wind up, I think her name, so you don't wind up like Mary here. I think that's her name is Mary.
Of the night. It's fun.
Life for 77-year-old Mary McGrory used to be a glamorous affair, but for the last 3 years she's been living alone on the streets of Miami in her van.
Okay, so she's 77, back it up 3 years, that makes her 74. 73, 74 respectively, right? I can never remember if you count the year that you're at or do you start counting it the next year. That's why I say 3 or 4. 70, let's just say she's 74. 74, things start falling apart. Till then, she was living the streets of Paris.
The porta potty goes under, should go under there, but I have to have a carpenter arrange that, do it for me.
Think about that for a minute. First off, if I were a carpenter, I would not crawl in there. It's not sanitary. You have a sick person in there with their dog. There's no way I would crawl in there. Just for sanitation purposes. Not saying it to be cruel, just saying for sanitation. The porta potty. Think again. You're walking the streets of Paris. You're having a good time. You're holding your wine, martinis, whatever. Looking elegant. We have to have a plan, you guys. You have to have a plan so we don't wind up like this. So I don't wind up like this. My plan can fail too. It can. Just because someone talks about it on social media don't mean it can't fail. It can fail. And I'll be totally honest. I think one of the best things that ever happened was that I got divorced. I would not be in this financial position if I hadn't been dumped. Hey, I'm just saying. Not all women are the ones who file for divorce, okay? I would not be in this financial position. And I got nothing from my marriage but a messed up car. We had debt and everything. So there was nothing. It's not like I got a handout from my marriage. I did not. But you think about it and you're thinking a porta potty. It seems unfair that when you get to a certain age, in my opinion, regardless of the mistakes you've made, part of me is just like, just call it a draw. Help them. Have a place, you're 75 and above and you still haven't figured out life. Well, we're not going to leave you in the back of the van. Short of you being a criminal. I mean, a really, really bad criminal. Okay. You lost at the game of life at the very end. See, if I were writing the laws, everybody's 75 and up, because that's 10 years past the 65 retirement age. All right. I know I can't retire till I'm 67. Okay. But 75 and up, win, lose, or draw, here's your senior living housing. Yeah, it's going to be bare bones basics, but it'll be humane. All right. But we owe it to you at a certain point. And if you say, well, they've made mistakes, they shouldn't be getting such handouts. Well, guess what? You could be the same one to make that mistake. How do you want society to react? We are all human, right? It's easy to go, well, somebody who's 75 years old hasn't ever saved for retirement. I'm talking when they're old, 75, 80 years old. I'm not talking even when they're in their 60s, because I'll be 60 in 2 years. So that is not, no, that 60 is way too young. Okay, what is it? 60 is the new 40 or something like that. But it's easy to sit there and go, well, these seniors, they didn't plan their retirement. Well, I understand that. I get it. That's why I say 75 and up. You can figure it out from 65 to 75, deal with the consequences, whatever. But 75 and up, come on, guys, we have enough humanity inside of us. Nobody should be living in a van. Like I said, win, lose, draw, screwed it up or not, 2 bankruptcies, out of repossession. That's me. That's my history. I don't want to be on the street at 80. And sometimes, folks, people wind up on the street, I think a lot of the times, no fault of their own. Literally, no fault of their own. Hey, you've heard those Dave Ramsey stories that I've done reactions to, where you got one dumb spouse who's hiding money. No, they're not hiding it. They're spending it. Let me correct that. They're spending money that the other spouse doesn't even know about. And the other spouse thinks that they've got a retirement account, when in reality, the retirement account is zero. That's what I'm talking about. And it's usually going to be the ding dong that blew all the money. They're probably going to be the one to pass first anyways. Oh, and just in case you didn't see, was it yesterday, the day before upload of, I don't think I attached it at the end, but I did another upload earlier, just a day or so ago, on another senior citizen, and she's having to work between Walgreens and trying to find a job. She's living in a trailer home. We have to have enough compassion, folks, that this is not acceptable to us. When we get to the point where we go, yeah, that's acceptable for a 77-year-old, that is when we have lost our compassion. Just in my opinion. Again, I recognize she's made mistakes. I guarantee it to you. She has. But so have I. And so have a lot of you. I would hope to think that there's enough compassion that we just say, fine, here's your senior housing. Maybe a little less money for war and a little more money for senior housing. That's my political statement.
We're first going to serve the handicap and then everybody else by number.
Like thousands of seniors in South Florida, Mary depends on handouts from churches and charities. She receives a few $100s a month in social welfare payments, but it's not enough for a safe place to live.
A few $100s a month.
I sold my house because I couldn't pay the taxes, pay the gardener, pay everything. My mother did.
Stop. Now, this is the part where we're gonna pause here. Now, if you've watched the channel, you probably already know where I'm headed. She had a house that she inherited. She had a gardener. Yes, I know that you some of you knew I was going to mention that. Now, remember that picture we saw at the beginning? Okay, the socialite picture, that black and white picture, them looking ever so elegant and beautiful. I'm not surprised her mother had a gardener. That was high class living, at least from that snapshot. I mean, we can all look rich for a photo when we're really dirt poor, okay? But I'm going to assume, based on that photo, at face value, and based on what she has said, her mother had a gardener, most likely had a lovely house. In my entire life, I've only known one person in my entire life that had a gardener. And I'm not talking about the guy who comes and pulls your weeds and calls it a day. Talking a gardener, they trim the shrubs, they, take the leaf blower, and in other words, they beautify it all. I know one person my whole life who had a gardener. Her parents had a gardener. They lived in a ridiculous size house. And she was actually one of my best friends in high school. This kind of sweetest people ever. You would have never known they had a gardener. Okay. That signifies wealth. Just the word gardener. Notice she didn't say the lawn man is coming, or the yard maintenance people. Okay. That's the way we poor folk talk. Okay. The lawn guy's coming today, or the kid pushing the mower. Rich people say the gardener. Now, I'm just being facetious, right? Not really, but Seriously, poor people don't say the gardener is coming. Poor people say, oh yeah, the neighborhood kid is coming, or the lawn guy. Okay. Hey, put in the comments if I'm wrong, by all means, please. So she gives up the house because the house is too expensive. Now, you know what this tells me she tried to do? It tells me that she tried to manage it and she could not manage it and it failed. Now then, again, I know it's only a snapshot. I want you to go back to that snapshot in your mind. I would have reposted the snapshot, but I don't pre-plan my commentary. I just talk off the top of my head. So I don't have it. I can't pre-post it for you. Now then, that snapshot, that black and white snapshot again with them, the beautiful gowns and all of that stuff. All right. Do you think at that time she was learning how to budget, how to live on a certain lifestyle? Now look at the condition that she's in. And again, she has probably passed away. So we are using her soul and her spirit to teach us. I'm willing to bet that by the time she got the house from her mother, she didn't have money management skills. And you know how come I'm thinking that is correct? She lost the house. Now then, pause here for a second. If you give me a house and I'm financially literate, I understand budget, you give me a house, I can quickly do the math on that house and I can tell you right away, I can't afford that house. And if the house still has a mortgage on it, we're selling it. I'm keeping the profit, keeping my lifestyle as it is, and we're moving on. What I suspect she did, and please put in the comments if you think I'm right or wrong, all right? What I think she possibly did is that she took the house, it was inherited to her. She did not understand how to budget. She tries to budget for the house. She can't. And like she said, the gardener and all of that stuff. Okay. And eventually, just like rising water. Okay. She sunk financially because she did not have, I'm just assuming here. Okay. Because she did not have money management skills. She did not know how to rebuild herself financially. She did not have the skills to rebuild herself financially. You give me a house that I cannot afford through an inheritance. If the house is ridiculously expensive for me to afford and there's no way I could sell it for a profit, I'm not going to take the house. I'll treat it like a timeshare. I won't take it. Oh, I did 2 timeshare videos about a week or so ago. Just for those who like timeshare stuff. Okay. I'm going to treat it like a timeshare. I don't want the house. It is okay to turn down something that was inherited, that was supposed to be given to you as an inheritance if you know you can't afford it. Don't believe people when they sit there and go, oh, well, if you're okay, let's take student loans here. Okay. Well, if your spouse dies or whatever, you're responsible for the student loans, not if you didn't sign on it. Debt is to the person that signed on it. If you didn't sign on it, you didn't co-sign on it. If I didn't sign for a house, I don't, and I know it's too expensive, I'm just going to say, no, I cannot accept it. Something tells me that she tried to live the gardener lifestyle. She tried to live the lifestyle in her older years like she was living in her younger years, and it backfired horribly. And because she did not have the money management skills to keep herself afloat, this is where she wound up. Now, if the house had been worth money, think about it. Okay. Let's say the house had been worth money. Whether it was paid off or not, she could have sold it. It would have made money, or it was paid off. Okay. If the house had been worth money, then that should have been an asset. In other words, it should have been a benefit to her current lifestyle. When my parents left me some money so I could get my condo, it was a benefit to my lifestyle. I didn't go kaput over it. But if she had not had financial management and she inherits this house and her mother's gardener, okay, she inherits that lifestyle, but she has not learned how to manage that lifestyle. She does not have the income to support that lifestyle, okay, and she hasn't got it up in the head as to how she really should live. I could totally see an expensive house with a gardener, okay, attached. I could totally see how a lifestyle like that could absolutely sink someone. That is just, I don't know if it's called hypothesis. Sometimes I get my words mixed up. Okay. But that is what I am thinking happened here. Because if she really came from that type of background, and it looks like she did, then why wasn't there a financial inheritance? There was. in the house, most likely. So I'm thinking she just never learned money management. There are people who have money, don't know how to manage it, and wind up in poverty. Unlike the video I did the other day about the lady the 70-year-old trying to, find a part-time job at 70. I think they were somewhat poor all along. They didn't come, from what I gather, they did not come from wealth and then drop into poverty. Poverty is the spot we don't want to hit. So what are you going to do to make sure that you're not there?
Kitty, 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 kitty. My name is Olivia Marino Carlson. I'm 70 years old. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I cannot afford to retire. I live off of Social Security, which does not pay all my bills. That's why I'm looking for work. My husband was a mechanic. He developed MS. I took care of him until he passed away. I was working retail, lifting boxes. It was very hard. I'm going to the library to use the internet to look for work. I did not think that being 70 would be like this. I'm asking if there's any positions or work positions available here.
We don't have anything open right now, but keep an eye on it.
I put in an application here at Walgreens. I haven't heard back, so I'm going to check to see what's going on. They don't have an update on my application. The cost of food has gone up. Every time I blink, it goes up. I get better prices here.
Your total's gonna be $10.25?
My greatest obstacle right now is being able to support myself. It is hard for me just to survive. It is hard for me to accept that I'm not able to enjoy the rest of my life because I have worked hard all my life.
Just heartbreaking, man.
I intentionally left the news anchors and their response to it in the clip because I genuinely believe that many of us, probably some of you out there this Saturday evening, so happy Saturday night, okay? Many of you out there are probably feeling the exact same way. I'm going to do something kind of unusual. I'm going to replay this again, and this time with my commentary. Normally, I do the commentary first, and I attach this like as a quiet room thing that you can listen to in most of my videos if you don't want to hear me, okay? And I understand that some nights are like that. I got it, okay? But in this case, I really felt this needed to be played first, so you had a sense of perhaps not just the situation she's in, but the emotional toll that this situation is taking. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's do the commentary portion. So I'm actually going to play it again, but this time with my commentary, and now you have an idea of her situation. Okay, here we go.
Here, kitty, 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 kitty. My name is Olivia Marino Carlson. I'm 70 years old. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
All right, we're going to stop right here, okay? We can see that she has, it looks like a walking cane and a walker. Okay, so she has a walker and a cane. She is 70. I want you to think about the age you are, okay? I'll be 58 on July 4th. Now then, I want you to picture yourself at 70, regardless what age you're at, okay? No matter how close or near 70 you are. I want you to imagine your physical condition and you are unable to retire. You're basically going to have to work until you pass away. And I want you to think about the videos we've done on this channel, and we will continue to do on this channel. And that is how difficult it is to get a job past 50. Somebody totally able-bodied, okay, sound body, mind, the whole 9 yards, and they're having a tough job getting jobs after 50. We know this. We hear it on the news. Of course, I've known it most of my life. That's why I left corporate at 38. Now I want you to imagine all the medical conditions you have at 70, and you can't stop working. And I think in some cases, what makes her story more heartbreaking, that just adds to it, okay, is the fact that she's in this alone. She has nobody. And here's the other thing, and they did not talk about this in the report. I wonder if she has kids. See, I won't assume she does, but yeah, I'm going to assume she kind of does. All right. This is Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I guess my thought is let's just assume she has kids. They didn't just say if they did or did not. All right. But if it's the average couple, yeah, they probably have a kid or two. When people say to me, who's going to take care of you when you retire because you don't have children? I'm going to take care of myself when I retire. I don't have a choice. And the other way, they say, well, how are you going to afford it? Well, the money that a lot of people spend on kids, I'm shoving it towards my retirement. In other words, I'm responsible for myself. And the other thing to remember is, and again, I'm going to assume they have kids. All right. I could be wrong. I accept that. But a lot of times people think, well, your kids are going to take care of you in retirement. Not necessarily. Your kids have their own life to go live. And your kids may have their own poverty, income, lower socioeconomic income bracket to deal with. It's not easy to assume that just because someone has kids, that those kids are going to be there to rescue their parents from poverty. And here's the other thing. Some parents wouldn't want their kids to rescue them no matter what. There are parents out there, and I know you exist, okay? I don't care if I'm sleeping in my car or my children are not paying for my living, okay? Even though the kids are probably going, Mom, Dad, come stay with us. That's just stubbornness, okay? That's a choice then. That's a choice. But a lot of people, I've had people ask me, well, who's going to take care of you when you get, old because it's just you? Well, just me. I just have to plan differently. But when you really get down to it, if you have kids, you really shouldn't be planning any differently than I am, because I'm not planning because I don't have kids. I'm not planning on them taking care of me. And just because you have children, it is my belief that you shouldn't plan on them taking care of you. I mean, it's great if they do, okay? But we can't count on that. So in many ways, I've always believed that people with kids and without kids need to be responsible for planning our retirement. So maybe she has kids. Who knows? But this poverty, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you have kids or not. And statistically, if you're impoverished, your children may be as well.
I cannot afford to retire.
Look, okay, now let me just give me 2 seconds here. I have to hold a handrail now when I walk up the stairs because of my knee arthritis. I cannot walk up the stairs without something to hold on to. I have to. I would fall. I would just simply fall, and it would not end well. I'm watching her with her cane and her walker. This doesn't seem a fair ending. And she says she took care of her husband till he passed away. He got the easy ticket out. I'm just saying. Okay. And statistically, women are more likely to outlive their husbands for many statistical reasons, not important for this channel and this topic. Okay. But this is not unusual. And she is stuck trying to live out the rest of her days with no one to help her. I told you, if I ever have done a video where I thought someone should have a GoFundMe, she's probably it. So at 70 years old, and you think it's hard to get a job at 50, 55, 60, total able-bodied.
I live off of Social Security, which does not pay all my bills. That's why I'm looking for work.
We know this, right? Please tell me you know this. Please tell me this channel has taught you something. Probably somebody taught you long before you came across this channel, but I'm just here to remind you, Social Security is not enough. I have known that for, since my 20s. I believe I was directly taught it too. I think I was. I don't remember which parent told me. I think it was probably my mom because I lived with her. But I've always known Social Security was not enough. And I'm surprised how many people don't know this. But there are people out there who still think, I can make on Social Security. Social Security today, just of what it pays, I don't think would cover most people's rent. Just the cost of apartments is more than what people take in Social Security.
My husband was a mechanic. He developed MS. I took care of him until he passed away.
Okay, let's take a look at the socioeconomics. Now, my Question to you is, how are you avoiding this type of situation in your own life? Share with us. What are the tips? What are the tricks? I want this channel to be a place where we actually can get results out of each other. I mean, of course, you're always welcome to say hi, say hello to me, say hello to each other. Oh, and by the way, before I forget saying hello, Jamie, girlfriend, you are in my thoughts and prayers, and I love you. Okay. As many of you know, Jamie's a very long time viewer and all that, very active on this channel. So we love you, girlfriend. Okay. But take a look at the socioeconomics here. This would be tough on someone who had the money to retire, to live like this. Like you actually have the money. They can retire in this condition. I think what scares me for her, and this video just ran yesterday, okay? I think what scares me the most is she's really just one step away from the street. She is one step away. And tell me that she could afford a roof leak repair on this. Looking at the grounds, it is definitely, and it's New Mexico, okay? And I've actually seen some videos and documentaries on poverty in, I believe, specifically New Mexico. She is one step away from living on the street. And that is scary. And it just seems so unfair. You take care of your husband till he passes away, and then you're left on your own. Guys, this is why you need life insurance. It's why you need life insurance on your spouse, period. I'm willing to bet they did not have life insurance. So something just tells me he was a trucker. I mean, if they did have life insurance, it wasn't enough. Let's put it that way. He was a trucker. I'm not going to fault and say that they didn't save anything, but I'm willing to bet that they didn't live much better when he was alive. They don't state whether or not she worked at all. And I don't know if she's had her disability. I said with the cane and the walker, don't know if she's had that her whole life or if that was something that just came on in the later years. But I will tell you this, if she had had that her whole life, okay, with that disability, they should have had life insurance, like significant amounts of life insurance. And honestly, you guys, I don't think term life insurance is all that much. Even Dave Ramsey approves of term life insurance.
I was working retail, lifting boxes. It was very hard.
70 years old. Think about that. You're sending your grandma, your great grandma off to go lift boxes. Almost makes you mad, does it? Does in some ways, I mean, it's easy for some of you out there going to blame her. You say, well, you know, she should have done a better job. Yes, perhaps they could have done a whole lot better. But at the same time, it also makes you mad. It should make you mad to some extent that this is what our elderly wind up in. Sending her off to go lift boxes. I can't lift boxes. I really can't. My mobility is limited. Yes, I can work out in a gym because that's a very controlled environment with very specific movements that I'm doing. It's not like having me go to work and lift boxes. I'll give you an idea as to how my medical condition is. Okay. Last year when school started, I was like, oh, great. I'm going to flip every desk over and put tennis balls at the bottom of the desk feet. So when you move the school desks around, it doesn't make a bunch of noise and scratch up the floors. The custodians always appreciate that, right? So I use my classroom money and I get these tennis balls and we, snap them to the end. To give you an idea as to my medical condition, I have about 30 desks in my room. They're in rows. I did 1 row a day. That's my physical condition. Because for me to physically take the desks, flip it around, put the tennis balls back on it, reflip it. Now, it's hard to imagine how come I can't do that, but yet I can go to a gym and lift weights. It's about control. And anyone who's ever lifted weights knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking to you, Dewey, Parlor, okay? Mr. D. It's very controlled. It's a very different type of lift, and I can stop in 2 seconds. It's not the same at work. The physical movement you do at work are muscles you don't normally use. Okay. And you're doing it for potentially hours. And I tried to, I just literally looked at the classroom rows. I had like 6, 7 school days before the students came. And I just divided the rows up in 7. And every day I did it. And one of my gal pals, one of my best friends in the whole world, she kind of chewed me out because she's like, why are you flipping desks over to begin with? Well, I don't want to inconvenience any of the kids. And then I found out we had a bunch of students that run around campus looking for, opportunity hours to try to get, to try to get service credit and stuff. So this year I'm going to be smart and use them. Now, the reason I was telling you all that, in case those of you who forgot, if you're still here with me, this is how this channel operates. I apply what I know about life and I apply it into our stories. Okay. So thank you if you're still here. Here's the thing. When we talk about the physical movement required to do on a job, I can tell you, and that's the reason I told you that story, it can be excruciating. It can be physical hell if you're not careful. And I am so grateful that I don't have to deal with that. We have custodial staff. We have, like I said, students who volunteer hours, all of this stuff at my disposal. You can't send a 70-year-old woman on a walker and a cane to work. The only work she can really do is something that does not require her to move. And expecting her to lift boxes, that's just ridiculous. Remember when George, God, we love George of the Dave Ramsey show, when George told the 80-year-old lady, well, you didn't set yourself up for a good retirement, so you need to go get a part-time job. She may not have set herself up for a good retirement. Maybe this is her fault. Maybe it's the fault of her and her ex-husbands. I would say it's probably more of both of their fault, okay? Not just her alone. But even so, it should, if you have an ounce of humanity, it should still make you mad that a 70-year-old still has to go to work. I understand that she may be at fault for this, and her husband. I do not believe she solely is at fault. I have a hard time believing that, because she put him until he was passed away. So they've had this financial situation for a while. So I do not believe we can blame strictly her for it. But there's just a part of me, regardless of who is at fault, okay? The system, their bad budgeting, whatever. 70 years old, she should be able to go on full disability, in my opinion.
I'm going to the library to use the internet to look for work.
And she's going to the library because she doesn't have the funds to have internet service at home.
I did not think that being 70 would be like this. I'm asking if there's any positions or work positions available here.
We don't have anything open right now, but keep an eye on it.
And any of you know, do you think getting a job at a library is easy? No. You have to go through anything that you have to apply for, city, state, federal, usually requires a host of steps. I mean, it's like walking into the IRS saying, hey, do you have a job open? It doesn't work that way.
Put in an application here at Walgreens. I haven't heard back, so I'm going to check to see what's going on.
What's going on is she is not going to really be employable, because they're going to look at her and say, you can't do the job. We need people who can lift boxes, push them up over your head, stuff like that. I'm just looking at her and I'm thinking, oh man, isn't there such a way to give people permanent disability? I guess that's what Social Security kind of is for, right?
They don't have an update on my application.
And the reality is they're not going to have an update. And did you notice where she's shopping at? The Dollar Tree. Even though ounce per ounce, things are typically more expensive. Okay. When you're broke, it doesn't matter if it's ounce per ounce. You're looking at, can I get this for $1 or $2? And by the way, isn't Dollar Tree the one that raised up all their prices? My Dollar Tree is up to $5. False advertising. They need to change that name, you guys.
Cost of food has gone up. Every time I blink, it goes up. I get better prices here.
Your total's gonna be $10.25?
My greatest obstacle right now is being able to support myself.
Have you thought about how you're going to support yourself? Have you thought about that? By the way, I cut out the part. She was at a Bible study. That's where she was having that meal at. She was at a Bible study, and she was saying basically how the group helps her to cope with the condition that she is living in. Have you thought about what your life is going to look like at 70 or sooner? I'm almost 58, and I can tell you, you know what? I'm like picturing how things are supposed to be. And so far, I'm pretty happy. But I've had to make a lot of sacrifices, and I continue to make sacrifices so I can continue to have a future that does not look like this. This should be a scared straight video for some of you guys out there. And I will attach at the end before I forget, okay? I didn't think of it right now. I'm going to attach at the end one of my absolute favorite videos. And it was one of the first videos I ever did. And I didn't think about it before I made the video banners on this. But as soon as we're done, not right now, don't go right now. The video is still on. Okay. But at the end, I'm going to attach one of the first videos I ever did when this channel became a money channel 3 years ago. And it's about a Canadian couple. The husband is a truck driver. The wife is stay at home. They're rounding retirement, so they're definitely in their 60s to their mid 60s. Okay, they're getting ready to retire and they have no money. I'm going to attach that to the end because I believe she said her husband was a trucker also. I gather that trucking can make really good money. Okay, that's just something I've gathered from some trucking stories I've seen like this, where the husbands were truckers. But there seems to be a lack of planning, and perhaps it's just knowledge. There's a lack of understanding that it's not just about what you make, guys. You know this. You already know this. It's about what you keep, and you've got to plan on not what you're just going to keep now, but what are you going to also keep in the future. And something that I have noticed just a trend is that when I seem to do stories on people who are truckers, it does not seem to be uncommon that they are without a plan for retirement. So I'm going to attach that at the end. It's an older video, but I really think it's worth it. And I've heard the commentary is just fabulous.
It is hard for me just to survive. It is hard for me to accept that I'm not able to enjoy the rest of my life because I have worked hard all my life.
Have you worked hard all your life? Are you getting the retirement you want? Are you working hard all your life? Will you continue to work hard? I've always have believed that when I retire, I've always said, I'm going to stay in education till the day I drop. Okay. I want to remain in education. I can't just retire and sit and stare at the walls. I can't do it. All right. But I will do it on my terms. I will work the days of the week that I want to work on my terms. And I think when people say things like, "Oh, I'm not planning for retirement because I'm just going to work till I die anyways." Well, you know what? Your knees may give out, your shoulder may give out. God help you, you wind up with some medical issue. You don't know that it's going to last for forever till the day you go meet your maker. So I want to keep working, but I want to do it on my terms, not because I have to. If I'm a greeter at Walmart, it's because I want to be a greeter at Walmart and I want to stand there and I want to say hello to everybody on my terms. I don't want to do it because I have no retirement savings at 70. And I've got my cane on one side, I've got my walker on the other, and I'm pulling my 8-hour shift until I can go home again.
We have been evicted for 19 days in the pandemic, so we've been living homeless since.
Are your socks wet? Okay.
I don't know, I just put it some type of way where I just actually be enough comfortable where I feel like I'm in the bed or something.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm sitting in the front seat of my car. Realization sets in, okay, we've been out here all night long. It don't have to be like that. We tried our best to do our part, and the landlord didn't want to compromise with us.
John and Margaret Eady have been living out of their car since they were evicted from their home on September 29th. They said they were unable to make rent after John's hours were reduced at his trucking job.
And we was comfortable. Then here come Mr. Pandemic. Everything just went from comfortable to uncomfortable real fast.
All right, folks, happy Saturday afternoon. Now then, really quickly, I want to make sure that we understand that even though this is from 2020, okay, during the pandemic, on my channel, I like to play videos if I think it's current to relevant time, and I absolutely do. I want you to think in terms of the economy today and how expensive rent is, how people are working, and they still cannot make ends meet in spite of holding, 2, maybe even 3 jobs. During this video on Al Jazeera Network is one of my favorite channels. Okay, this video about John and Margaret here has received more than 8 million views. And I think the one thing I kept asking myself is, you know, who's at fault here? You know, you have tenants, they've paid the rent, and then this thing called a pandemic comes along. And if you can't pay the rent, even though perhaps you've paid it really well all these years, do landlords have some, I don't know, if not legal, is there some moral obligation? I'm just throwing it out there as a question, okay? Not expecting you to answer one way or another, okay? But is there some moral obligation about there's a pandemic going on? These people have been your tenants. They can't pay right now. Do you wait out the pandemic with them and allow them to try and catch up, or do you kick them out? And if you kick them out, can you, on your own consciousness, I think that's the word, okay, can you sleep at night knowing that there's COVID and they're sitting in a car? And what was with COVID? Something like, don't get within 6-7 feet of people. I can only imagine the thought if they had had kids. That was probably the saving grace in this whole situation. And of course, we hope they're in a better situation today. So I want you just to be thinking about this, but thinking about how the economy is right now and the problems people have of making their rent. Now, I will tell you for the record, I genuinely believe that as the tenant, I believe I'm responsible for making sure the rent is paid. That's where I stand on it. If I cannot pay the rent, I understand why the landlord has to let me go. But I think what was perhaps disturbing for a lot of people was that unlike normal eviction times, there was a pandemic going on, and you're basically sentencing two people to go and sleep in their car. Is that something you could live with? I don't know if I could, but it would really depend upon the relationship I had with the tenants prior to the pandemic. And I mean on the business relationship, because I personally don't think tenants and landlords, for the most part, I don't think they should be friends. I think it needs to be kept very business. That's just my personal opinion, okay? Because sometimes hard decisions have to be made. And if you're friends with them, okay, I think that can cross and get very muddy up the waters, okay? But assuming a professional, landlord tenant business, would you be able to sleep at night knowing that two people during COVID are, stuck in their car side by side within just inches of each other? The same thing could be said, I guess, with student loans today. You have people who are looking at student loans that have gone up 2-3 times the amount. Even a simple $200 a month student loan can quickly become $400-$600, depending on the payment plan you get put on, or should I say you get sentenced to. Should landlords feel guilty in any way that the rent's going up and these students who are trying to pay off their student loans can't necessarily make the bill because the rent's too much? And here's the thing, before we talk about go live in a cheaper place, I can tell you here in Tampa, I think around a 400 square foot studio where I used to live is running about $1,400 in today's market. So I guess that's just something for you to think about. If did the landlord do the right thing, tossing them to the street during the COVID? Again, I'm put down your own thoughts. I'm not honestly voting one way or the other. I guess if I had to vote, really, it would be yeah. If they didn't have the money to pay the rent, yeah. But again, it would really have to depend also on what type of relationship did I have with you before? How long had you been there? Had we had issues before?
This is me, Margaret Edie, and my husband John. We're being evicted. We just needed a little bit more time in August, and we could have gave her money. We don't right now have nowhere to live.
How many landlords? And again, I'm a moderate Democrat for those who want to know kind of where I sit on the spectrum. But here's the thing: how many landlords have heard, "Just give us more time"? And don't throw the rotten vegetables, but I can see it from the landlord's point. I've told you before, I would have made an excellent politician because I can see both sides. How many landlords have heard, "Oh, just give me 3 more weeks. Just give me another month. Give me just 2 more months." Okay. And then I promise. Well, how long can we expect landlords to keep agreeing to that? There comes a point where it's no, that's it.
We're going to be out homeless.
So I did everything that I was supposed to do. I tried to go through the declaration, the CDC moratorium, and
She won. So this is where we ended up at.
Okay, she says, and again, you can fast forward it to the next chapter and you can watch these clips without my interruptions, okay? And the full video will be linked in the description box. Okay, so she says she tried to go through the moratorium. Now, I don't like to throw shade on people, but I do like to look at things from a realistic standpoint because I think it's only reality that really allows us to correct the errors of our ways, or for us to understand why we're in the situation we're in. Okay. She says she tried to go through the moratorium. Does she strike you as someone who has a legal background in understanding how this moratorium stuff worked? Because even I didn't understand the moratorium stuff. Okay. I know I wasn't a renter, but just that law is always harder than what people think it actually is. You know, we hear a one sentence snippet on the news about something legal, but in reality, when you open up the books, it's pages and pages of details that we never hear about. So here she is, she's living in her car. Does she seem like she's in a position to try and figure out what the moratorium laws are? Clearly, the answer to that is no. So this is what I would call a very vulnerable couple. Okay, that's what I would call. I would call them. They're a vulnerable couple. She was probably easily swayed. Again, not throwing shade, but I am going to be honest. She was probably easily swayed by the 2-sentence blips that she heard somewhere on, social media. And so what wound up happening is that she heard that and she heard, well, you can't be evicted during the pandemic. And she ran with it. And I don't blame her because I would have probably done the same thing because I'm no lawyer either.
Your destination is on the right. After being homeless for weeks, Margaret is urgently looking for a new home.
It's got to be this one right here, 26. She says go by and take a look at it and then call back and they'll ask me some pre-qualified questions about it, but it definitely looks all right to me because it's better than where we are now in the car.
So did you get a chance to drive by and take a look at it?
Yeah, I'm sitting in front of the home right now as we speak.
Okay. And what's your name?
Margaret.
Okay, Margaret. And how soon are you looking to move into a home?
As soon as possible. Right now.
So are you on a lease where you're living at right now?
No, as a matter of fact, we're not. We're actually homeless.
Now, the minute she said we're homeless, okay, just listen. And again, I'm not blaming the woman that, is on the other end of the line. Okay, she's doing her job. But what can you imagine? As soon as she hears we're homeless.
Okay, and so where are you currently living?
In our vehicle.
Unfortunately, when we check the court records and see an eviction, unfortunately, we can't help you.
Okay.
Through 2 bankruptcies, through my auto repossession, through divorce, and everything else, the one thing I've always made sure was paid was my rent. I will eat oatmeal and white bread every day before my rent is not paid. I've always paid my rent. I have never been near I am fortunate. I've never been near an eviction. Like, oh my gosh, I had to get it paid within 30 days. I've never, I can honestly say, and grateful, I've never experienced that. But part of the reason I've never experienced that is it overrode everything else on the budget. Rent was always paid. And I think this is where Dave Ramsey, because I do reaction to Ramsey also. This is where Ramsey and I disagree. Ramsey says food first, shelter second. I say shelter first, food second. Shelter first. You can always go to a food bank, but a food bank cannot give you shelter.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Just like always. So what now? There's no compassion. And if you hear, she talked about if we check the court record, then they're going to see the eviction and they can't help us. And that's going to be to every property that we go. So I'm going to just go to a totally different realty company, because that was Cozy Homes or whatever they call it. Cozy Homes. I wish I had a cozy home.
I brought about cry when I heard her say that. I wish I had a cozy home. Okay. How many of us, like I said earlier, we're only just a couple paychecks away from our cozy home, from our king size bed, from our air conditioned room. We're not that far away. I recognize that. And you may say, oh, well, you've always got family to fall on. Does family want you to live with them for forever? I mean, these are the realities of it. You know, I could not see myself imposing on my sisters for very long. You know, it's not something that I would want to do because that is their space. They've earned it. Now, I know, of course, you know, none of us would allow each other to be homeless. That's just not going to happen. It's just kind of a sisterly pack there. Okay. But still, you know, you shouldn't budget things knowing you have a fallback. You should be your own fallback if you've done it correctly. It's like parents should not plan their retirement around their kids supporting them. Parents should have their own retirement plan. Same thing with siblings. Okay. I actually know someone not related to my family, but who actually plans that I'm just going to say hers. Okay. Because I don't want to reveal who it is, that her sibling is going to take care of them when they get older. So they are making no retirement plans whatsoever, and they're in their 40s. And I literally said to them, do your siblings know that they're your retirement plan? I said, have they agreed to this? The answer, of course, was, you know, crickets, absolute silence. But when you think about it, if you are evicted, your odds of getting into a corporate rental agreement really slim. And you can be stuck in either those, those hell holes with rats and roaches. Okay. Kind of like the slumlords. You can be banished to that, or you're going to have to find a, sort of off the grid private renter. This is really hard. And this is why I say, I genuinely believe that your ability to stay away from evictions, that's your number one importance, not food. Food can come along. As a matter of fact, probably a lot of people, you know, if you said, hey, I'm hungry, can I have $10? They'd probably give it to you. That's why I don't think food is the most important thing. It's your housing. And I can't imagine sleeping in a car. I mean, the heat, just, you know, like I live here in Tampa, I can get into my car after work. It will register 100 degrees until I've opened up the doors and it lowers itself to 90. I can't imagine just physically being in a car all day, how that would physically injure you. See, this is why poverty is so expensive, you guys. To be poor costs money, to be on the lower socioeconomic rung. Now, there are those who will say you either want to be really high at the top or really low at the bottom. I kind of have to agree with that, because when you're kind of the middle, they're almost, John and Margaret, this couple here, they're almost like the middle crowd. They're capable of holding a job. At least I'm assuming Margaret was holding a job. John was the one paying the rent, but I'll just assume, okay, they're both capable of working. They were working. They had a place. Okay. They weren't so poor that they were impoverished. Okay. So what winds up happening though, they can't get any assistance when the tide turns. But again, as the landlord, you know, how long do you keep accepting your tenant saying, well, just wait. And so you wait. Then tenant goes, I just need another 7 days. I can see why a landlord would say no, because even if you get caught up at one point, the problem is if you don't have steady income, guess what? The landlord and you are going to be repeating the whole, hold on, just give me another week routine all over again. So I can really see it from a landlord's point going, look, yes, I'm aware that maybe you'll have the money in whatever is August, October that they said, but what happens when November and December come around? This is why I think oftentimes landlords would just rather cut the strings with the tenant that does not have financial stability than try to keep working with them every single month, figuring out when they can actually pay.
So I'm just going to go to the next realtor now and try to find somebody else. I see a property that's listed on Zillow at 127 Burns Street in the city of Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. The qualifications are that you be on your job for a year, not having judgments for rent or collections for utilities. We do check credit, rental history.
Okay.
You are better off with a bankruptcy on your record than you are an eviction. And I am living proof of it because I've had two. I've never had a problem getting a place, and a decent place. This is why I say to you, your rent is number one priority over anything else. Because once you get on an eviction list, unless you're from the state of California, that might be slowly changing some of the rules of what can be used. Okay. But once you get on an eviction list, it is so hard to get it off, even after you've caught up the payments. It's just really difficult.
So one of them strikes us out because we have an eviction. That we're dealing with right now. We're like living in our car.
And there's also, let's face it, there's also a negative connotation, a prejudgment we have of people living in their car. So you're the landlord company, you've got two people, one of them, two potential renters. One renter couple is living in their car and you know it. The other rental couple is coming out of an apartment and you know that too. They're both capable of actually being renters at this point. Which one would you pick? Of course, you'd pick the one that wasn't living in their car. We have a sense that people who have lived in their car have somehow or another intentionally done it to themselves. I can't honestly believe that everybody living in their car did it to themselves intentionally, because I don't know anyone that intentionally wants to live in their car. So my thinking is that if you're living in your car, it was a set of circumstances. Now, I will say that perhaps some of it was your fault. Perhaps you made some financial risks, bets, career, job moves. Perhaps you're one of those people that said, that's it, I'm quitting my job. You know, we've seen that on TikTok. Okay. I'm quitting my job, no job to go to, and I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber, and you find it totally falls apart. Before you know it, your rear end is in a car. So I think there are multiple reasons as to why someone can be there. But I have to believe that the majority of people who are in their car, it was a set of circumstances that simply wound up leading to them being in a car. But how much of it is their fault, I could not judge unless I knew the entire story. But my experience, because I had a friend who used to live in her car. I didn't actually know she lived in her car at the time because she kept it really, really secret. It was actually a van. And I was in my early 20s. And I was used to always going over to my friends' houses. I was used to always going over to my friends' houses and stuff. It's like, hey, you come hang out at my place, I hang out at yours. And I used to say to her, well, let's go hang out. And we were really good friends. Okay. It wasn't like a casual friend. And she would just never let me come over. And I finally said to her, I said, why don't you ever want me to come over? And she goes, Carrie, haven't you realized I'm living in my truck? Because it was a van, like a work van with the sides, no windows or anything. And I was like, oh, I said, I never knew that. That was the first time I ever even had the concept that people lived in their cars. Apparently she did. We still remain friends, and, she lived her life in her van and all of that. But it's my experience. I think she did it partly by choice. So again, you have to kind of know the entire story. This is when I lived in Portland.
Oh, no.
Yes, ma'am.
You
So
can go to this place.
I know it's going to be another no. This gets so frustrating. And I just got to keep looking because I just can't sit around. I can't sit around in this car all day trying to keep a level head. And then people don't know that they have your lives in their hands. All they got to do is just say yes. Yes, we'll work with you.
In court,
but like I said, okay, yes, we'll work with you. But how many times are landlords expected to say that? Under what conditions? You see, this is why renters, it's really important to pay your rent on time, to have a good to create a positive relationship with your landlord. Because I think a lot of it, again, I don't know what that they actually tried to interview the landlord. I think comes up at the end. They tried to interview the landlord, and that landlord refused to say anything, probably because the landlord is afraid of backlash. But at the same time, I can see why the landlord has their own bills to pay. The landlord has things that they have to make. Otherwise, everybody's going to be out of the house, including the landlord.
renters present a form stating that they're protected from eviction under the moratorium. However, Margaret says this didn't help her case.
When I went to court, it was absolutely traumatizing. When I presented the judge the moratorium, he just looked at it. I mean, it was just like it was absolutely nothing to him.
And again, I'm not going to throw shade, okay? She doesn't strike me as someone who has the psychological capacity to understand high levels of technical requirements, including dealing with the law. I consider myself pretty sharp. I don't understand the laws of the moratorium. I mean, if you explained it to me, yes, I would get it. Okay. But I'm well learned enough, so to speak, to know that what I've heard on TV about it, there's much more to it. And this is why it wound up surprising so many tenants. Okay. It wound up surprising a lot of tenants that their landlords could still evict them, because the tenants are going, wait a minute, there's a moratorium. You're not supposed to evict us. But there were so many rules and regulations and requirements around that. And here's the unfortunate side of it. Even if the landlord was not supposed to evict them, the landlord has legal assistance and help to find a way around it. But like I said, I'm not throwing shade, but they almost seem slightly on the spectrum to me. And again, I'm not throwing shade. Don't misunderstand. Don't misunderstand it, okay? But I'm looking at a couple who I can clearly see the vulnerability of them economically, and it almost doesn't surprise me they're in this situation. So her trying to go to court as a one-woman band, I'm going, it's going to be a disaster. And of course it is.
Knowing that we really don't have any rights, and being that she's a landlord and she can hire an attorney, and we can't afford to get an attorney, I knew that we were going to end up on the streets.
I'll be tired in my body like I am right now, but I can't let that get to me.
There are people that are out here that literally needs a place, a roof. You know what I'm saying? This is where this is our roof, and luckily we have this car, or else we probably have to sleep under a tree, literally.
Can you imagine the back pain you would have just trying to sleep in a car? And then you wake up and you want to stand and you want to stretch, and you're in that box of a car. Yet she's absolutely, Margaret is right. She goes, basically she's saying we're better off than other people, because there are other people that don't even have a car. Then of course my fear is what happens if the car breaks and all of that stuff, you know? It's like, don't get into an accident. Okay, let me go ahead and lower this down so you can see what it basically says. It says, we reached out to Margaret and John Edie's landlord, but they did not elaborate on their eviction. Of course, that's would be dumb for the landlord to do that. But I understand Al Jazeera has to, say, hey, at least we did reach out to the other side.
The plan was, of course, go to college, graduate, find a job, move out of state, because that's always something that I wanted to do.
Asia Tillman graduated from college in November 2020 with a bachelor's degree in marketing. Now, more than a year later, she's working as a trainee at a car rental company and living with her mom.
It's entry level and I make $15 an hour. You don't need a college degree to do what I'm doing. That everyday stuff like answering phones, making reservations, walking around cars, you don't need a college degree for that at all.
What Asia's talking about is underemployment, doing a job that underuses her 4-year education. One study found 43% of college grads are underemployed, and it's happening to more women than men, even though women earn the majority of bachelor's degrees. Black and Hispanic students face even higher levels of underemployment.
I feel confused sometimes because it's just like I had this idea of what my life would be like at this age, and that's just not exactly how it is.
Study after study shows that students pursue a college degree as a bridge to opportunity. Too often, colleges and universities don't like to talk about careers. And it's especially doing a disservice to students of color and to women who don't necessarily have the social capital to navigate their way to a good job without the support of learning the right things in the classroom and getting the right connections into good jobs. That means that women are starting out behind. So if you start out behind, then that could go a long way toward explaining why women across the arc of their careers are earning less than men.
No staff member just cared about me. Nobody mentored me. Not that they have to, but it's just like nobody cared to do that or even offer me that option. And I looked for options, but I never found anything. I'm a first-generation college student, so nobody knows the path that I've been walking, the journey that I've had. At the end of the day, it's just me. College, it can be a good thing, but it's not what it's painted out to be. I don't feel like I got anything tangible, like an actual career, something that could set me up in the future. I don't feel like I got any of that. I feel like I got student loan debt. That's what I feel like I got. About $30,000.
Asia says she's applying to about 20 jobs a day while working full-time, but no luck yet. Although it's not a guarantee, a 2021 Georgetown study does show that a college education generally pays off in the long run.
I feel like there's a lot that I can do. I feel like there's a lot for me to accomplish. I feel like this is just a bump along the way that I'm learning how to overcome. You just have to be patient. That's what I kept telling myself. That's what I still tell myself.
It hasn't been easy at all. You know, I come and I try to spruce myself up and keep a smile on my face, but on the inside, it's a struggle.
Teaching school children is all 37-year-old Natalie Shakesnider has ever wanted to do. But the sixth grade teacher never imagined she'd be working full-time and still unable to make ends meet.
I've been between my car, Motel 6, and an Airbnb whenever I can afford it.
Shakesnider drove from her home state of Mississippi to take a teaching job in Richmond 2 years ago.
I had no idea that I would come here, leaving Mississippi, leaving a home, and come here to being homeless. I have to run my car a lot just to have the warmth.
She's been unable to find affordable housing, so she rents an Airbnb or motel room. And every month when the money runs out,
sleep there, keep my car running as long as I can when I do have gas to do that.
She sleeps in her car.
Thankful for like the grocery stores, gas stations where I go to kind of wash up and take care of hygiene to come to work. I keep my bleaching things, so when I go to the gas stations, restrooms, I clean up the bathrooms. Most nights I'm scared, it's unsafe, but I get up in the mornings and I still come to work.
Our starting salary here for a teacher is about 50, in sort of the mid to late 50s. That is not sufficient to be able to independently live. To the county.
The president of the teachers union says Shakesnider is not the only teacher living on the edge. He says West Contra Costa School District teachers are among the lowest paid in the Bay Area.
I don't regret coming here because I love that I'm chasing my dream, but it makes me sad to know that I'm doing this while most times sleeping in my car. It's really sad.
Shakesnider says she wasn't prepared for the high cost of living in California. And she says she's met many others who are working, some multiple jobs, who are homeless too.
It's not a personal thing. I believe like it's a Bay Area, California thing where there are people who are working jobs, getting up every day, going to work, and yet still doesn't have a safe, comfortable place to live.
She says California's teachers deserve way more than what they get paid. Though she loves her Richmond students, she tells us she may move back to Mississippi at the end of the school year. But she's determined to continue pursuing her passion.
I wake up every day not knowing how it's going to end. All I do know is that I'm going to teach, and that's what gives me joy. That's what I live by.
Carolyn's clothes hang neatly in the back seat of her car.
I'm a neat freak.
And are organized in the trunk.
This is my dry cleaning my silks, which I can't afford right now.
Dry cleaning is the least of her concerns for this 78-year-old. She's been living in her car for nearly 2 months because she can't afford a place to live.
I look at it as a journey. I've had many journeys in my life.
Money is tight because her only income is Social Security. She's sold many of her possessions over the last few years, but she still doesn't have enough money. We spoke with her here in a well-lit parking lot in North Broward, where she spends time doing word puzzles.
Where it has the large letters for people like me.
And sleeping, sitting up.
Since I've been here, I sleep here in this seat, squinched down. My ankles and legs are swollen from having to sit all the time. I buy jug water, it's cheaper. And I eat one meal a day for $2.02, and then I get a free senior drink.
She gets free gym memberships as part of her Medicare plan.
I do go shower and do my makeup and my hair. It can happen to anyone. don't think it can't. Because I never thought about it.
Carolyn has not lost her sense of humor despite living in her 22-year-old car.
That's my baby. She's falling apart like me.
We have been evicted for 19 days in the pandemic, so we've been living homeless since. Your socks wet? Okay. I don't know, I just put it some type of way where I just actually be enough comfortable where I feel like I'm in the bed or something.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm sitting in the front seat of my car. Realization sets in, okay, we've been out here all night long. It don't have to be like that. We tried our best to do our part, and the landlord didn't want to compromise with us.
John and Margaret Eady have been living out of their car since they were evicted from their home on September 29th. They said they were unable to make rent after John's hours were reduced at his trucking job.
And we was comfortable. Then here come Mr. Pandemic. Everything just went from comfortable to uncomfortable real fast.
This is me, Margaret Eady, and my husband John. We're being evicted. We just needed a little bit more time in August, and we could have gave her money. We don't, right now, have nowhere to live. We're going to be out homeless.
So I did everything that I was supposed to do. I tried to go through the declaration, the CDC moratorium, and she won. So this is where we ended up at.
Your destination is on the right. After being homeless for weeks, Margaret is urgently looking for a new home.
It's got to be this one right here, 26. She says, go by and take a look at it and then call back and they'll ask me some pre-qualified questions about it. But it definitely looks all right to me because it's better than where we are now in the car.
So did you get a chance to drive by and take a look at it?
Yeah, I'm sitting in front of the home right now as we speak.
Okay. And what's your name?
Margaret.
Okay, Margaret. And how soon are you looking to move into a home?
As soon as possible. Right now.
So are you on a lease where you're living at right now?
No, as a matter of fact, we're not. We're actually homeless.
Okay. And so where are you currently living?
In our vehicle.
Yeah, unfortunately, when we check the court records and see an eviction, unfortunately, we can't help you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Just like always. So what now? It's no compassion. And if you hear, she talked about if we check the court record, then they're going to see the eviction and they can't help us. And that's going to be to every property that we go. So I'm going to just go to a totally different realty company because that was Cozy Homes or whatever they call it. Cozy Homes. I wish I had a cozy home. So I'm just going to go to the next realtor now and try to find somebody else. I see a property that's listed on Zillow at 127 Burns Street in the city of Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. The qualifications are that you be on your job for a year, not have any judgments for rent or collections for utilities. We do check credit, rental history.
Okay. So one of them strikes us out because we have an eviction. That we're dealing with right now. We're like living in our car.
Oh no.
Yes, ma'am.
You
So
can go to this place.
I know it's going to be another no. This gets so frustrating. And I just got to keep looking because I just can't sit around. I can't sit around in this car all day trying to keep a level head, and then people don't know that they have your lives in their hands. All they got to do is just say yes. Yes, we'll work with you.
In court, renters present a form stating that they're protected from eviction under the moratorium. However, Margaret says this didn't help her case.
When I went to court, it was absolutely traumatizing. When I presented the judge the moratorium, he just looked at it. I mean, it was just like it was absolutely nothing to him. Knowing that we really don't have any rights, and being that she's a landlord and she can hire an attorney, and we can't afford to get an attorney, I knew that we were going to end up on the streets.
I'll be tired in my body like I am right now, but I can't let that get to me.
There are people that are out here that literally needs a place, a roof. You know what I'm saying? This is where this is our roof, and luckily we have this car, or else we probably have to sleep under a tree, literally.